You're up early, Roger.
Yeah, Mom, I had to work on my science project.
It looks great. What is it?
It's a model of the human brain. What do you think?
I think you're gonna flunk science.
Hi, Mom.
Oh, good morning, baby.
Raj, if you're gonna eat that mess, you can at least use a spoon.
This is not my breakfast. It's paper mache. Now get out of my face.
Do you hear the way your son is talking to your daughter?
Why don't you leave Roger alone? Can't you see he's trying to do his homework?
Leave him alone. He's the one who's always picking on me.
Well, sometimes you deserve it.
It's getting tougher and tougher to live in this house. Bye, Mama.
Hold on, young lady. Where do you think you're going?
School.
School? What about breakfast?
I haven't got time.
It's only 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock? I'm late.
For what? School doesn't start for an hour.
I know. I'm just getting in shape for busing.
Your sister.
That's your daughter. I had no choice in the matter.
Principal Bradley from Dr. Claymore, school psychologist. We'll meet with you this afternoon to discuss fourth grade students. Come in.
Is this where I'm supposed to be?
If you're D. Thomas, it is. I'm Dr. Claymore. Why don't you have a seat and we'll discuss your problem.
Look, first let's get something straight. I'm not here to talk about my problem. I've got no problems. I'm here for a friend.
Oh, sure. I understand.
That's good, because if I had a problem, I'd handle it myself. That's the kind of person I am.
Oh, I see. Okay, then. What's your friend's name?
She asked me not to tell. She would have come here herself, but she's not ready to open up to a stranger. Nothing personal.
Oh, I understand.
What are you writing?
Nothing.
Well, pay attention.
Okay.
Now, here's my friend's problem. Things have been hard for her lately. She's getting very depressed. You should write this part down.
Oh, okay. Go on.
You see, she's got it bad at home.
In what respect?
I'm coming to that. I'll get to it all. Just be patient with the person.
Oh. Oh, sure. Of course. I'm sorry. Go on.
Her brother is always picking on her. And what's worse, her mother is always taking his side. She feels like everybody's ganging up on her, and she's getting fed up. I mean, fed up to here. The last straw. The end of her rope.
Wow.
Are you getting all this?
Oh.
The end of her rope.
I have it. Go on.
She's thinking about leaving home.
Yeah. Oh. She's gonna run away?
You got it, doctor.
Friend has a real problem.
Sure, I wouldn't be here if she was just biting her nails.
Well, I think we can work it out. But only if she doesn't run away. We can't help her with her problem. She's not here now, can we?
Where do you get all this weed stuff? I'm only in the 6th grade. You're the one with all the diplomas.
Right. Well, I'm sure I can help her. Why don't you come back tomorrow and we'll talk about it some more, okay?
You're the doctor.
Good. Oh, Dee, you think your friend, can put off running away for one more day?
I think I can handle that. But you have to come up with some answers quick. Any more pressures and this kid's gonna snap.
Roger, it's 10 to 8. Shouldn't you be leaving for school?
With half a brain?
It's never stopped you before.
Mom.
Dee-dum-dum. Hello? Yes, this is she.
Come in.
Hey, hey, hey. Oh, hey. What's happening? Aren't you gonna eat this, Raj?
No.
Thanks. I love cream of wheat.
Rerun, that's not cream of wheat. That's paper mache.
Well, give it to Mikey. He'll eat anything.
Will you quit it? I'm making my science project.
Yeah, it looks good, Raj. What is it? It's a kidney, dummy.
It's not a kidney, dummy. It's a brain.
No kidding? I didn't know brains look like kidneys.
They don't. Now, how can I hand this in? It's way too small.
Just say it's reruns.
Be quieted down. My mama's on the phone. Hey, Dwayne, are you still working on your science project with that boxy Diane Lewis?
Yeah, we've been working on it all week. We're making a butterfly collection, but we haven't found any yet.
Where you been looking?
So far, just on her couch.
I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
What's the matter, Mama?
Roger, have you been picking on Dee?
Not really. Why?
That was the psychologist at Dee's school. She went to see him this morning.
For what?
Well, she thinks that you and I are picking on her too much, and she told him things are so bad at home she's thinking of running away.
Well, maybe I have been snapping at her lately. What else did he say?
Well, he said the best thing for us to do is just go out of our way to be very nice to her.
For how long?
What do you mean for how long? Until he can get to the bottom of her problems. That's for how long?
Wow. Knowing Dee, that could take years.
At least Dee was smart enough to go see a professional about her problem.
Yeah. Baby, if you went to see a professional about your problem, rerun, you'd lose weight.
I don't have a problem, Dwayne.
What do you call that?
Herbie.
Here she comes. Here she comes.
Okay. Now remember, just act casually, be really nice, but, don't overdo it. Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, Dee.
How'd you look nice today?
Doesn't she look so pretty?
Yeah, I love your dress.
Your hair looks pretty, too, today.
If it's money you want, you can forget it.
We don't want any money. We're just happy to see you. Guess what this is?
Reruns lunch.
You got a cute sister, Raj.
Go ahead, open it. It's for you.
Wow, it's those new skates I wanted. All right, what gives?
Nothing. We just wanted to give you a present.
Yeah, is that a crime?
So that's it. The skates are hot.
Listen, Dee. On our way home, we passed the toy store, and Raj said, I want to give Dee a present, and that's all there was to it.
Hold on. The last time you were this nice to me, I had to have my tonsils out. And Mom baked cookies.
Dee, come here, baby. Look what Mommy made for you. Your favorite chocolate cake. Yeah.
Give it to me straight. How sick am I?
No, baby. There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing at all. Hey, you're perfectly healthy, and we all love you. And you can have roller skates and a cake and anything else you want. Anything. Just name it. What's that, baby?
Air. I'll get it. Hi, Robin.
Hi, Dee. Could I talk to you for a minute?
Sure, come in.
Hi, Mr. Thomas. Hi, fellas.
How you doing, Robin?
I have a little favor to ask. I was wondering if I can talk to Robin alone.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, did you see the school psychologist today?
Yeah, and he said exactly what I thought he'd say, that a person must face their problem instead of running away.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
I'm seeing him again tomorrow.
Again?
Yeah, again. This thing's gonna take a little time. He's not too bright.
It's nice of you to do this for me. I hope you didn't mind seeing the doctor about my problem.
What are friends for? Listen, you go home, be cool, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Oh, Dee, you're a terrific friend. Bye.
Bye. It's not easy being Dear Abby.
in.
Hi, Dr. Claymore.
Hi, Dee. Why don't you have a seat? So, how's your friend doing?
She's doing fine. I don't think she's upset anymore. It helped her to know you thought her problems could be solved.
Good.
I've been working with her, too.
Oh, well, that's important.
Frankly, I don't think she ever meant to run away. She was just looking for attention.
Hey, that makes a lot of sense.
Then why aren't you writing this down? This is big stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't really come to talk about my friend today, though.
Oh, who would you like to talk about?
Me, I'm the one with the problem.
All right, Dee, right. That's good.
What's the matter with you? I tell you I got troubles, and you act like you just won a date with Lola Falana.
I'm sorry, Dee. I'm just pleased that you were admitting that you yourself had the problem. Okay, now, what is it?
Listen to this, Doc. It could be bad. You see, a couple of years ago, my brother came home and gave me a present. Later, I found out he knew I had to have my tonsils out. Yesterday, my brother came home and gave me a pair of skates. Not just any skates. I'm talking about the top of the line. Then my mother walks in with a cake.
Oh, what do you think that behavior means?
Major surgery.
Or it means that they're trying to let you know that they care a lot about you.
I know that.
You didn't seem to know that yesterday. Yesterday you said that they didn't respect you, that they didn't care.
What's the matter with you? Yesterday, I wasn't talking about me. I was talking about my friend.
Your real friend?
Yeah, my real friend.
Not just you making believe you were your friend.
What are you talking about? She's sitting right outside.
Dee, we mustn't let our imagination get the best of us.
I'm telling you, she's sitting outside. Can I get your secretary on this?
Yes.
Breaker, breaker, this is Sugar and Spice. Would you send that little kid in? 10-4. You'll see. Dr. Claymore, this is Robin Mitchell. You know, my real friend? I can mention her name now. She's coming out of the closet.
Hello, Robin.
Don't clam up on me now, Robin.
I'm sorry I didn't come myself, but I was afraid. I'm not afraid anymore.
Oh, that's good. That's real good. Why don't you make an appointment with my secretary, and we'll talk some more about it, okay?
Give the guy a chance.
Well, if you say so.
Don't worry, it'll work out fine.
Okay, bye.
Goodbye. Well, I guess we cleared that up.
That's fine for Robin, but what about my problem?
Well, your problem is not a problem. It's a misunderstanding.
What kind of a misunderstanding?
It was my little mistake.
What do you mean a little mistake? You're a paid professional.
Gee, sometimes people come in here to talk about a friend, and they're really talking about themselves.
You gotta learn to trust a person.
Yeah, I better call your mother back and tell her not to worry.
You called my mother?
Yeah, well, yesterday I...
Dumb.
I'm sorry, Dee.
You're sorry? My whole family is walking around doing wonderful things for me because of your blunder, and you say you're sorry?
I better call your family right now and straighten this whole thing out.
No, I'll do it for you. I'll tell them as soon as I get home. You can trust me. I'm not disturbing you, am I, Raj?
Oh, no, just enjoy yourself. Oh, Dee, look what you've done. Look what you don't...
Did I break your brain?
Oh, no, that's all right. That's all right. I'll just get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and make another one. I got other homework to do anyway.
You know what, Raj? I really shouldn't skate while you're doing your homework.
Thank you, Dee.
So don't do it.
What?
Yeah, and start doing mine.
Right, okay. I'll do it.
It's so nice to have a big brother around here to take care of me. I didn't think you loved me.
Oh, no, Dee. Always remember that Mom and I love you very much.
Really?
Really.
Then how about giving me an allowance?
You already have an allowance.
Not from you.
Dee, Mama gives you $1 a week, and that's plenty.
Raj, wake up. How far do you think $1 goes today? In my lifetime alone, the cost of a candy bar has doubled, and they're cutting back on the nuts.
All right, I'll give you an extra 50 cents a week.
In advance? I thought you were gonna do my homework.
I will.
Well, then get my books. How about some milk and cookies?
Dee, I gave you a chocolate bar before.
Is before now?
You're right.
Get the door, Raj.
Hey. What's up, man? What's happening, Raj? You ready to go to the game?
Yeah.
Sorry, fellas, Raj can't go to the game. He's taking me to the movies.
What?
But if you'd rather go to the game and break my heart, go ahead. I'll be in my room crying on my pillow.
No. I'll take you to the movies.
Great, I'll go get the movie section.
Okay.
Well, have a good time, Raj. We'll be thinking about you behind home plate.
Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you guys gonna go to the movies with me?
No offense, Raj, but being nice to Dee is really getting to us.
Look, Raj, we need a night off.
Don't we all?
Hi, Mrs. Thomas.
Bye, Mrs. Thomas.
Bye, Mrs.
Oh, Mama, I'm so glad you're home.
Oh, what's wrong?
Being nice to Dee is driving me crazy. I've been running around here all afternoon. I made her bed, I cleaned the room. I've been waiting on her hand and foot. And I couldn't even do my homework because she was playing roller derby.
On my floors?
What can I do?
Then you mean to tell me she didn't tell you there's nothing wrong with her?
Nothing wrong?
That's right. I went to see Dr. Claymore, and he told me there's nothing wrong with her.
Nothing wrong?
Well, she went to see him about somebody else's problem, and she promised she'd tell us as soon as she got home.
Nothing wrong?
Snap out of it, Roger.
Snap out of it. Like this little country. And she fell on top of me, and then she broke my brain. I said, Dee, we love you. Wanna look at that little creep. She's had me run around like a fool all day long. And now I'm gonna miss the ball game.
No, you won't. No, you won't. Now, you just run and catch up with Dwayne and rerun, and I'll handle her.
Oh, thanks. Nothing wrong.
Roller skating in my living room, and my furniture all rearranged.
Hi, Mama.
Oh, hello, darling.
Where's Raj?
Well, Roger's not here. I told him he can go to the game.
And he went? I thought he loved me.
Oh, he does love you, and so do I. And I have a wonderful surprise for you.
What?
Well, there's a very special place I want to take you tonight. And when we get there, I'm going to give you something very, very special.
Good, let's go.
But first, there are a few things I have to do here.
Like what?
Well, I have to do the laundry and straighten out Roger's closets and dresser and stuff.
Why didn't Raj do them?
I forgot to ask him. But I want it done tonight. Maybe I'll put off the surprise until later.
No, Mama. You do the laundry and I'll do Raj's room.
Well, then there's the vacuuming, and I have to change the linen and stuff.
I'll handle it. Please, Mama?
Oh, all right, baby.
Can you give me a hint about the surprise?
Well, I'll tell you this much. It's something you really deserve. And I'm going to have fun giving it to you.
All right.
All right.
Finished.
Are you sure, honey?
Yes.
All the drawers are neat and arranged?
Yes.
And the closets?
Both of them. You know, Raj is really a slob.
You did Roger a big, big favor.
Can we go to the surprise now?
I really should clean my room and do the windows first. Maybe I'll save the surprise for tomorrow. I'm very tired.
Why put off till tomorrow what you can do today? I'll handle it.
All right, baby.
Finished everything, Mama. Can we go to the surprise now?
We sure can. Come on.
Where you going, Mama?
To the surprise place to give you the surprise thing.
Upstairs?
Uh-huh.
The surprise is in my room?
Surprised?
Yeah. Did you speak to anyone lately at my school?
You mean like this morning in Dr. Claymore? Mm-hmm.
Trouble.
Yeah, big, big trouble. Now, come on, young lady, let's go.
Can you let me explain my side first?
I promise you, Dee. I'll look at your side. And consider everything right from the bottom. Now, march.
I still think Reggie Smith made the play of the game. I mean, taking a home run away with the bases loaded.
How come I don't remember that?
That's when you went to get your hot dogs.
Oh, yeah. One with mustard, one with ketchup, one with relish, and one with the works.
I mean, how often do you see a play like Lopes made? I mean, he jumps high in the air, spears a line drive, steps on second, and throws the first. Triple play.
When was that?
Fifth inning, you were up getting ice cream.
Oh, right. All 31 flavors.
But, Dwayne, do you think Garvey was safe on that play at the plate?
I don't know, but the catcher still had the ball in his hands when they carried him off the field unconscious, so.
I didn't see that. Where was I?
Getting a pizza.
Oh, yeah. Heavy on the pepperoni. You guys are right. What a great game. Who won?
The guy who owns the refreshment stand.
Well, I better be going.
All right, hey, what's in the bag, Raj?
Just a little something I got for Dee.
Even after she lied and used you, you getting her a present?
Well, I knew what she was in for tonight, so I got her something she could really use.
Yeah, but what is it?
A Dodger seat cushion.
Rerun, you want to eat now or wait for Raj?
Both.
You ready to order?
Yeah, what's today's special?
Today we got holy chili.
Again?
Why do they call it holy chili?
One bowl and you drop to your knees. I think I'll have a hamburger.
Good thinking.
I don't have anything.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey, Raj. Wow, what a great looking bike, man.
Brand new.
What made Bronson break down and buy one?
Well, I gave him this long, moving speech about how our customers deserve better service.
That speech convinced him to buy a new bike?
Yeah, because while I was talking to him, someone stole the old one.
Raj, can I take you for a test ride?
There's not a bike in the world that can pass that test.
Yeah, sorry, Rerun, but if anything happens to this baby, it's my responsibility.
Well, what's going to stop somebody from stealing this one?
Hey, no one's gonna steal anything. I got a lock and chain.
What's the matter?
Someone stole my lock and chain.
Well, you take that bite out of here. This is not a drive-in.
Well, I gotta go anyway. Got a lot of deliveries to make.
Well, hold up, Raj. I'll walk out with you. Later, Rerun.
Here you go, Rerun. Where's Raj going?
He's going to make his deliveries.
Well, Rerun, when are you going to get a job?
I'm going to start bringing home a paycheck right after I graduate from high school.
Mm-hmm, that'll go nice with your Social Security check.
What was that?
I don't know.
Oh, it was terrible. It was awful.
What?
It was horrible. It was a mess, and it all happened so fast.
What happened fast? What? What, Dwayne?
Raj, what happened? What?
I got hit by a car.
Are you all right?
Yeah, fine, but look at this thing. What am I gonna do? It's a total wreck.
Listen, just be thankful you in one piece.
Oh, Shirley, you don't understand. This bike is my responsibility. I gotta pay for it, and it costs $72.
Well, you can do it.
Hey, young man, are you all right?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank goodness, because I'm all right, too.
Well, you should be. You were in the car.
Listen, as long as I see you're all right, I'm willing to forget everything.
Huh?
Now, listen, I know you're upset, but let's face it. You hit me broadside as I was coming out of the alley.
What are you talking about? I had the right of way.
Don't let him push you around, Raj.
Who are you?
You might say I'm his legal advisor.
Yeah? Well, this is between him and me, so butt out.
That sounds like good advice.
Dwayne, you saw everything. You tell us.
Who, me? This Dwayne?
Yes, this Dwayne.
What is this? Are you kids trying to swindle insurance money?
Are you kidding? Look at my bike. It's a total wreck.
Well, did you see the big dent you put in my car door?
Oh, well, it's too bad about your car.
I accept your apology.
Hey, I'm not apologizing. I don't even think it was my fault.
Listen, kid, I don't want to argue with you. I have better things to do.
So do I.
Well, hold it right there, sport.
The name is Charles Hopkins.
Well, you're not going anywhere, Charles Hopkins. Until you give Raj your address, phone number, and driver's license.
That's fine with me, if he does the same.
Oh, he's gonna do the same. Here, Raj.
Thanks, sure. You got any paper I can write on?
Here, son.
Well, I tell you, I was willing to forget everything. It seems it doesn't pay to try to do somebody a favor.
What favor?
You ran your bike into my car. You're lucky I didn't call the police. The only reason why I didn't is because I am just too nice a guy.
Too nice a guy? He's lucky I'm a lady.
What am I gonna do? How am I gonna pay Mr. Bronson back for this bike?
Hopkins owes you for the bike, and he knows it.
And you owe me for lunch.
No, I don't. Mr. Hopkins was kind enough to pick up my check.
When, Rerun?
When Raj wrote his name and address on the back of it. I think I can fix this, Will. How's that?
Oh, great, Rerun, a square wheel. You just set mankind back 5,000 years.
Oh, it's no use. No way we can fix this bike ourselves.
Hi, fellas.
How you doing, Miss Thomas?
Hi, Mom.
Oh, what's this mess, Raj?
My new delivery bike.
Well, what happened to it?
Raj had a little accident.
Accident?
Now, wait a minute. Don't get upset, Mom. I'm all right, really. I didn't get hurt.
Yeah, but what happened? A guy in a big caddy came flying out of the driveway and creamed Raj. Do you want Mom to take you to the doctor?
Oh, no, Mama. No, I'm fine.
Do you hurt anywhere?
I'm fine, really, Mama.
Well, thank heavens.
But what really gets me, Mama, is that it wasn't even my fault. I had just gotten on my bike to make my deliveries, and there he was coming out from nowhere.
That's right, Miss Thomas. That's exactly how it happened. I saw the whole thing.
And now I owe my boss $72 for the bike.
There's only one thing you can do. Pay for the damages and get it over with.
But I don't think I should have to pay for anything.
That's right, especially when it was someone else's fault, right, Raj?
Right.
Well, what are you going to do?
I'll make him pay for it. I'll take him to small claims court.
All right, that sounds like a great idea.
If he wins. But what if he loses?
Oh, Mama, there's no way I can lose. I have an open and shut case, and I got an eyewitness.
Mm-hmm.
Who's that, Raj?
You, Dwayne.
Oh, yeah, right, me.
I hope you know what you're doing.
I know, but I'm not a kid anymore, Mama. And if I'm old enough to take responsibility for this bike, then I'm old enough to fight for my principles in court. And besides, it only costs $2 to file a complaint.
You know something? I'm proud of you for handling this yourself. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Mama.
It'll be all right.
Can I borrow $2?
Here you go, Rerun.
Where's the rest of it?
Oh, I couldn't get the forklift through the door.
What's happening?
Hey, Raj.
Raj, what's that?
Oh, I want to keep my job, so I've been using this as a bicycle.
Must be tough going uphill.
This isn't a real bicycle. See, I never told my boss about the accident because we knew he'd go crazy. So what I do is, I just lean this up against the window, and he never knows the difference. I just hope I can get away with it until Monday.
Oh, what's Monday?
I talked to the clerk down at the small claims court, and that's when the trial's been set.
All right.
Look, how much are you suing Hopkins for?
Exactly what he owes me, $72.
Raj, are you crazy? That's just the damages. What about the mental anguish?
What mental anguish?
You know, the nightmares, the way you wake up in a cold sweat, the way you start screaming every time you see a Cadillac.
I don't do any of that.
Well, you better start. It could be worth a couple of $100.
Look, all I want is what Hopkins owes me, plus the satisfaction of proving that he was to blame for that accident.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Dwayne.
Dwayne. Hey, listen, I stopped by your house, Raj. Just let it look awfully important, so your mama told me to bring it right over.
Oh, thanks.
What is it?
Oh, from municipal court. Probably a confirmation of my Monday court date. Did you open this letter?
I couldn't help it, Raj. I'm your star witness. This letter affects me as much as it does you.
Oh, no.
What's wrong, Raj?
I'm being sued. It's a cross complaint. If I lose, I have to pay for the bike and the damages to the car. Oh, I gotta go.
Where?
I have to come up with hundreds of dollars. I gotta make as many deliveries as I can.
Hey, Raj, you forgot your bike.
Boy, Mama was right. I should have just paid for the bike out of my weekly salary instead of trying to fight it in court.
Too bad she's got to work the night your case comes up.
Yeah.
You won't need it. You've got an open and shut case. Just be careful how you handle it.
What do you mean?
All you got to do is stretch the facts a little, right?
Hey, no, I don't need him to stretch the facts. I'm in the clear.
Gee, I hope I know what to say.
Hey, don't worry. You'll do fine. As long as you don't commit perjury.
Perjury?
Yeah, they can send you to jail for that.
Jail?
Dwayne, wait a minute, come back. Dwayne, my whole case depends on you. Without Dwayne, I don't have a prayer.
Amen.
Both parties approach the bench. Thank you.
Hey, Shirley, thanks for coming.
Oh, I wanted to come. Besides, after this, I may only see you on Visitor's Day.
Where's Rerun?
I don't know.
Rerun, why are you wearing a neck brace?
It's from the accident.
Rerun, you weren't anywhere near the accident.
I know, but when I heard the crash, I turned my head so fast that I think I got an expensive whiplash.
Rerun, I'm the one the judge is supposed to feel sorry for. Now take that thing off.
Please, Raj, you're yelling right into my neck.
Please, in the back row. Order in the court.
Oh, yes, sorry, Your Honor.
Hey, Raj, you got a lady judge.
Yeah, Judge Jack.
You know, that's good because older women tend to pity me.
So do younger women.
Mr. Roberts, as a landlord, you should know better. After due consideration, this court renders your eviction notice null and void. Mrs. Hernandez may return to her home. Next case.
Did you see that? Yeah. This is going to be a snap. She obviously loves the underdog.
The next case on the docket is Thomas versus Hopkins.
Hey, that's us.
If both parties are present, will you please approach the bench with your witnesses?
Hey, good luck, Raj.
Oh, thanks, Shirley, but I don't need it as long as Dwayne comes through.
you all raise your right hands, please? Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may all be seated. Oh, this doesn't appear to be too complicated. Who'd like to begin?
I should, Your Honor, seeing as I shouldn't be here in the first place.
Oh, wow! No way! Boo! 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 It's a boo-boo in my neck, Your Honor.
As I was saying, Your Honor, I inched carefully out of the alley, the one next to the soda shop, came to a complete stop, honked my horn, and looked both ways, as I always do, when all of a sudden, this young man comes barreling out of nowhere and crashes his bike into the side of my car, causing $87.50 major damages, Your Honor, as this estimate indicates.
I see.
Your Honor, I object. I consider Mr. Hopkins' opinions both erroneous and irrelevant.
Not to mention wrong.
All right. You'll get your turn soon, Mr. Thomas.
Oh, excuse me if I was out of order, Your Honor. I'm sorry.
That's all right, Mr. Thomas.
Actually, it's Master Thomas, Your Honor. You see, I'm just a kid from a poor but honest background. And we never could even afford a bicycle. And I've never even been in a courtroom before. I haven't graduated high school yet. I haven't made my way through life. I guess I'm just at your mercy. The mercy of a woman of obvious wisdom and beauty.
Young man, if you're trying to prejudice the court, you're talking to the wrong judge. All we care about here are the facts.
Then forget how desperate I am.
Go on, Mr. Hopkins.
That's it, Your Honor. It's an open and shut case.
Oh, you see, Mr. Thomas, it's your turn already.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes. Well, it was this way, Your Honor. On the afternoon of the 15th at exactly 3:12, that's p.m., Your Honor, I know because I was wearing my watch. My mama had bought it for me, and she saved up for years to get it. And it's waterproof. You can even wear it in the shower. I don't mean you can wear it in the shower. I can wear it in the shower.
Thomas, please, just tell the court what happened.
Oh, very well. May I use visual aids, Your Honor?
If you wish.
Bailiff, would you give me a hand? Okay, Your Honor, this is 2nd Avenue. And this is the alley next to the soda shop. Oh, and this is the corner where Big Bad Gary Larson used to hang out. You know, you jumped on rerun? And these are the parked cars. This is a Plymouth Valiant. That's a Mercury Cougar. This is a foreign car, either Fiat or Toyota.
Mr. Thomas, this is night court. We're supposed to finish before dawn.
Very well. In that case, I would like to call my first witness, Mr. Dwayne Nelson, to the stand. He saw everything, Your Honor.
Mr. Nelson, will you take the stand?
Now, you did see everything, right, Mr. Nelson? Of course he did. Now, he's just a little nervous, that's all. Now, relax and tell the judge in your own words the horrible incident that was perpetrated against me.
When was that?
Last Wednesday.
Right, well, I was standing outside.
In front of the soda shop. Remember, you saw Mr. Hopkins speed out of the alley in an act of gross negligence.
Mr. Thomas, let the witness tell what happened in his own words.
Oh, sorry, Your Honor.
Well, Raj hit the car, or the car hit Raj. Then there was a loud, high-pitched scream, and that was it. Bye.
Wait, tell what happened. Remember, it was a Cadillac.
Right, whatever you say, Raj.
Are you and this witness friends?
The best. Raj is a great guy. He'd never crash into anybody.
Because if you are, his testimony is suspect. You are friends, aren't you?
We were.
You may step down, Mr. Nelson.
Your Honor, may I call a character witness?
That won't be necessary. I think I understand the facts. You both agree Mr. Hopkins was coming out here onto the main thoroughfare, while Mr. Thomas was already on that thoroughfare proceeding west, correct?
That's right, Your Honor.
That's right, Your Honor.
Well, then, we don't need to proceed any further. The decision is obvious.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
In view of the facts presented, and unless there is other evidence, this court would have to rule in favor of Mr. Hopkins.
What?
Mr. Thomas, you were riding your bike against the flow of traffic, which is illegal. And since Mr. Hopkins came to a complete stop, you're liable for damages to Mr. Hopkins' car.
Yeah, but see, I always, when I come out of the soda shop, I always come around.
See, you don't understand. If you'd have taken my advice to forgive and forget, we both would have been very happy. But now you get to pay for everything.
Oh, Your Honor, I object.
Who are you?
Oh, my name's Shirley Wilson.
Are you involved in the affairs of Mr. Thomas?
Affair? No. We just friends.
What can I do for you?
Well, now, I was thinking, excuse me. I think you're making a serious mistake. So, for the interest of justice, can I bring Dwayne Nelson back to the stand?
If you feel it has a bearing on the case.
Oh, I certainly do.
Your Honor, I find this totally objectionable.
You're no prize yourself.
Isn't she out of order?
I'll be the judge of that.
I'll be the judge of that. That's funny, Your Honor.
Dwayne Nelson, please take the stand.
Now, you said you heard a high-pitched scream. Did you scream?
No, I was too scared.
That figures. Now, what did the scream sound like?
Well, it was sort of a high-pitched scream, like, oh, but only higher.
Oh, hi. I see. Well, did it sound like this? Was that it?
No, it was much higher. It must have been that lady that was in the car.
So, there was a lady in the car, huh? Well, that'll be all, Nelson. Take a break, okay? I'll call Mr. Hopkins.
Mr. Hopkins, take the stand.
Your Honor?
You heard her. Please take the stand. And remember, you're still under oath.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hopkins, was there a lady in the car with you?
Do we have to bring her into this?
Maybe, maybe not. Listen, are you married?
Yes.
So, was the lady in the car your wife?
Your Honor, do I have to answer these questions?
Why not? It could be fun.
No, the lady in the car was not my wife.
You sure do get around, don't you, Romeo?
No, we'll have none of that.
Now, it seems that you were paying more attention to the lady than to your driving. Now, I find that very interesting. And so will your wife. So,
I just got a great idea.
I thought so.
Your Honor, Roger Thomas, a very industrious young man. And considering his performance in court tonight, and in view of the new evidence that was just introduced, I am going to drop the charges against Mr. Thomas. And I am also going to buy him a brand new bike.
All right! Order in the court. Mr. Hopkins.
Yes, ma'am.
We will note your offer of payment in the court records. Case dismissed.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay.
Look here, how did I do?
Well, frankly, I don't like this kind of courtroom dramatics.
Mm-hmm.
But between you and me, I think you'd make a heck of a lawyer.
I don't know about that, but I'll make a heck of a hamburger.
Shirley, can I get you to sue Hopkins for my whiplash?
You have a case, Rerun.
Really?
You don't even have a neck.
If we can get Shirley's attention, maybe we can all get something to eat. What do you have, Raj?
Well, I'm pretty hungry. Maybe a hamburger and a shake.
What about you, Dwayne?
How about a cheeseburger and a grape soda?
And how about you, Rerun?
I'll have the same.
The same? The same as me or the same as Dwayne?
Right.
But we can't order until Shirley comes over.
Yeah, I wonder what she's doing.
Hey, Shirley, a little service or I'll take my business elsewhere.
Rerun, this place will close down.
Shirley!
Would you hold it down? I'm trying to study, okay?
What are you studying?
The law. See, ever since your court case, I've been thinking of going to law school.
Then you should study psychiatry, too.
Why?
Because anybody who hires you needs his head examined.
It all began one ordinary Monday morning in Los Angeles, the kind of morning when the sun seems almost apologetic as it slides over the horizon, casting long, lazy shadows across the quiet streets, and the air carries that particular mix of promise and dread unique to a city where everyone is chasing something, whether it's fame, love, or just a paycheck that makes sense. Michael Carl, a man who had always considered himself unflappable, found himself in a state of mild panic as he stepped into his kitchen, the smell of freshly brewed coffee mixing oddly with the faint aroma of cleaning solution, the echoes of past arguments lingering like ghosts in the corners of the room. His mind, normally a well-oiled machine of logic and humor, was now a swirling storm of uncertainty, a place where every decision felt like it might trigger some catastrophic chain reaction. He poured himself a cup of coffee, watching the steam curl and twist in the air, and for a moment he considered that perhaps the whole world was conspiring against him, or maybe it was just his imagination running away with him again. The sound of a door slamming in the apartment above made him jump, and he realized with a sinking feeling that he had spent the last hour replaying last week's minor confrontation with his boss over the new accounting software, which, in hindsight, had probably been no big deal, but in the moment had felt like a declaration of war. He sipped his coffee slowly, trying to anchor himself in the ordinary rhythm of the morning, but his thoughts kept ricocheting off one anxious possibility after another: the bills, the school, the expectations from his family, the constant pressure to be the perfect father, the perfect husband, the perfect person in a city that measured worth in likes, ratings, and promotions. And then there was Mark, Michael's best friend since childhood, who had called the night before with a tone that suggested some personal revelation or crisis, though he had refused to elaborate over the phone. Michael had nodded, pretending to understand, but the weight of the unknown had clung to him through the night, turning his sleep into a series of restless, vivid dreams where everything familiar was distorted, twisted into forms that seemed simultaneously comic and terrifying. The boundaries between imagination and reality blurred until he woke up unsure of which world he was really in. He set his coffee down on the counter, noticing a tiny crack that had appeared in the corner of the mug overnight, and felt a shiver of foreboding, as if even the objects around him were conspiring to communicate some hidden truth he was too afraid to confront. The phone rang, sharp and insistent, and he jumped again, fumbling for it as if the ringing itself were an attack. It was Mark, and the relief of hearing his voice was immediate and overwhelming, though tinged with the apprehension that had become almost a second skin. "Michael," Mark said, his voice low and urgent, "you need to come over. Now. It's hard to explain, but I think it's happening again." Michael's stomach knotted. "What's happening again?" he asked, already knowing the answer, even before Mark had a chance to respond. Mark had a tendency to spiral into dramatic interpretations of ordinary events, but there was something in the cadence of his voice, the careful pacing of his words, that suggested this was different. "You see," Mark replied, and then there was a click, leaving Michael with a silence that pressed against his eardrums like a physical weight. He grabbed his keys, his mind racing through every conceivable scenario, each one more ridiculous and terrifying than the last. Driving through the streets of Los Angeles, he noticed everything more acutely than usual: the way the sunlight reflected off the glass of skyscrapers, the smell of exhaust mingling with the distant scent of bakery bread, the rhythmic thumping of tires against asphalt, all ordinary details, yet all now imbued with a sense of prelude, like the calm before a storm. When he arrived at Mark's apartment, he found the door slightly ajar, which was unusual, and the hallway was dim, shadows stretching long and strange, giving even the familiar walls a surreal quality. He knocked softly, calling Mark's name, but the only answer was the faint echo of his own voice, bouncing back at him, taunting in its emptiness. He pushed the door open further, stepping inside cautiously, and then he saw it. The room was filled with papers, sticky notes plastered everywhere with scribbles and diagrams that made no immediate sense, books stacked in precarious towers, maps pinned to walls with lines connecting points in patterns that resembled constellations, and in the center, Mark, pacing like a caged animal, muttering to himself in a tone that was half frantic, half exultant. "Michael," Mark said, without looking up, "it's all in our heads, but that doesn't make it any less real. You have to trust me." Michael felt his pulse quicken. "What are you talking about?" he asked, stepping closer, but even as he spoke, he knew the answer was going to be stranger than anything he could have imagined. Mark finally stopped pacing and looked up, eyes wide, pupils dilated, and in that instant Michael realized that his friend was on the edge of some revelation, some truth that teetered between genius and madness. "It started with small things," Mark explained, pointing to a series of diagrams that Michael could barely begin to comprehend. "Things moving in ways they shouldn't, coincidences that aren't coincidences, patterns in the noise of life itself. I thought I could ignore it, dismiss it, but it's growing, and now it's everywhere." Michael nodded slowly, unsure whether to comfort him or prepare to call someone for help, but before he could say anything, the lights flickered and a low hum filled the room, vibrating through the floor and into his chest. Michael grabbed the nearest table for support, feeling as if the room itself were alive, breathing, pulsating with a rhythm that resonated in his bones. "See?" Mark said, almost triumphantly. "You feel it too. It's not just me. It's not just paranoia. It's something." Michael's mind raced, trying to reconcile what he was seeing and feeling with the logical frameworks he had always relied upon. He had been a man of reason, a man who had thrived on predictability and control, and now that foundation was crumbling beneath him like sand in a storm. He looked around the room again, noticing details he hadn't before, the way the sticky notes seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at them, the faint shimmer in the corners of his vision, the way the shadows didn't quite align with the objects casting them. "Mark," he said cautiously, "maybe we should step outside for a bit, get some air, talk this through." But Mark shook his head, almost violently. "No. We need to face it here, in the epicenter, where it started. Don't you see? That's how we'll understand it. That's how we'll survive it." Michael swallowed hard, his throat dry, and took a deep breath. He had always trusted Mark implicitly, despite the friend's occasional flights of fancy and dramatic interpretations of mundane events. But this was different. This was a foray into something undefinable, a place where logic and perception collided in ways that threatened to upend everything he knew. And yet, against all instincts screaming at him to run, he felt a spark of curiosity, the same spark that had led him to embrace challenges, take risks, and find humor even in the darkest of circumstances. He stepped closer, letting his gaze sweep over the intricate web of connections Mark had drawn, the notes that seemed to form some cryptic language of cause and effect, of action and consequence, of thought and reality intertwined in ways that defied conventional understanding. "Okay," he said slowly, "I'm here. Show me." Mark's face broke into a relieved, almost manic grin. "That's all I needed to hear. That's all anyone needs to hear. The first step is acknowledgement. You see it. You feel it. You understand that our minds are not passive vessels, but active participants, shaping the very fabric of what we perceive. It's all in our heads, Michael. everything. But just because it's in our heads doesn't mean it isn't real. In fact, it means it's more real than anything else, because perception is reality, and if we control perception, we control reality. Michael felt a shiver run down his spine, equal parts excitement and fear. He had encountered Mark at his most intense before, during heated debates over trivial matters or during their childhood adventures that bordered on reckless, but this was a different magnitude. This was an intellectual and emotional tempest, and Michael was now in the eye of the storm. He moved to stand beside Mark, trying to absorb the diagrams, the notes, the maps, the intricate chaos that somehow seemed to pulse with life. He felt his own mind start to buzz, neurons firing in patterns that mirrored the frantic energy of his friend. He began to notice things he hadn't before, the slight tremor in the lights, the way shadows lengthen and shorten almost imperceptibly, the way sounds seemed to echo in peculiar patterns, forming shapes in the auditory space around him. It was mesmerizing, terrifying, and intoxicating all at once. "We have to map it," Mark said, suddenly resolute. "Every anomaly, every fluctuation, every connection. We have to chart the invisible forces at play. Only then can we predict, control, and perhaps even manipulate it. Imagine the possibilities, Michael. We could understand causality in ways no one else has. We could see the hidden threads connecting everything. And once we see them, we can do anything." Michael's stomach churned at the audacity of the claim, yet he could feel the truth of it in the vibrating air around them, in the charged atmosphere that made ordinary objects seem strange, and familiar spaces feel alien. He realized then that this was not simply a problem to solve or a puzzle to unravel. It was a new dimension of existence, one that required courage, intellect, and a willingness to abandon all certainties in favor of the unknown. And though fear still gripped him, he also felt a thrill, a surge of purpose that he had not experienced in years. He took a step closer to the wall covered in notes and diagrams, his mind already beginning to process patterns, hypothesize connections, and anticipate consequences. "Okay, Mark," he said finally, voice firm, yet tinged with awe, "let's see what's really happening." Outside, the city carried on obliviously, cars honking, people rushing to work, unaware that inside a small, unremarkable apartment, two men were standing on the precipice of discovery, about to confront a reality that was simultaneously ordinary and extraordinary, tangible and ephemeral, terrifying and exhilarating, a reality that existed not just in the world around them, but within their own minds. And as the hum intensified, the lights flickered more violently, and the patterns in the shadows seemed to dance. Michael felt the undeniable truth settle over him like a weight and a gift all at once. It really was all in their heads, and yet, for the first time, he had never felt more alive. As Michael and Mark stood there, absorbing the chaotic symphony of notes, diagrams, and maps that covered the walls like a chaotic tapestry of thought and obsession, Michael realized that the air itself seemed charged with expectation, as if the room had taken on a life of its own, breathing, pulsing, and waiting for them to make the next move, and he felt an uneasy thrill at being caught in the middle of something that was simultaneously brilliant and terrifying. Mark, sensing the shift in Michael's attention, moved quickly, grabbing a stack of papers from a nearby table and tossing them into the air, letting them scatter across the floor like a miniature storm, the fluttering sheets reflecting the morning light streaming through the blinds in patterns that resembled constellations. "We start here," Mark said, pointing to a cluster of sticky notes that formed a rough circle around what appeared to be a timeline of events, though the logic behind it was indecipherable at first glance. Michael crouched to examine them, noticing the fine detail in Mark's writing, the way arrows connected seemingly unrelated occurrences, the annotations that suggested causal links, coincidences, and improbable correlations that might have seemed absurd to an outside observer but now held a strange, undeniable resonance. As he traced the lines with his finger, Michael felt a subtle vibration underfoot, like the building itself was responding to their focus, and he became aware of a faint humming in the air, a harmonic resonance that seemed to align with the patterns on the wall, amplifying his sense of connection to the room, to Mark, and to the invisible threads that tied reality together. "Do you feel it?" Mark asked, eyes wide with intensity. "The room itself is alive. The patterns are communicating with us." Michael nodded slowly, not entirely sure whether to attribute the sensation to imagination, excitement, or some actual, tangible phenomenon, but he knew one thing: there was a compelling logic to the chaos, a rhythm hidden beneath the surface of disorder, and he couldn't look away. Mark began pacing again, muttering calculations under his breath, sketching more lines, erasing some, redrawing them with a fervor that bordered on mania, and Michael found himself drawn into the process, his own mind sharpening, connecting dots he hadn't noticed before, considering possibilities that had once seemed laughable, and yet now felt unavoidable. Hours passed, though neither man noticed, as they moved deeper into the labyrinth of Mark's creation, each discovery leading to new questions, each connection sparking the need for further exploration, the room evolving into a dynamic organism that demanded engagement, observation, and action. At one point, Michael leaned back against the wall, suddenly aware of the way the sunlight had shifted, casting long, irregular shadows that seemed to twist and ride across the surfaces, and for a brief, disorienting moment, he thought he saw figures moving within the shadows, though he knew logically it was impossible, yet the feeling persisted, as if the room were teasing him, testing his willingness to suspend disbelief in favor of immersion. Mark, noticing the expression on Michael's face, smiled knowingly. "Good," he said simply. "Question everything. Let your senses guide you. Do not dismiss what you see, what you feel. The rules have changed. They are malleable, pliable to perception, and that is the key." Michael took a deep breath, trying to center himself, and allowed his eyes to roam the room without judgment, letting the patterns emerge naturally, connecting lines that had previously seemed meaningless, discovering relationships between events, actions, and objects that seemed to defy conventional logic. The process was exhilarating and exhausting, the intensity of focus demanding every ounce of mental energy, yet rewarding him with glimpses of understanding that seemed to illuminate the hidden mechanics of the universe, or at least the mechanics of perception itself. At one point, a loud thump echoed from the corner of the room, and both men turned to see a small stack of books had fallen over, scattering across the floor in a cascade of hardcovers and paperbacks. Mark's first instinct was to panic, but he quickly composed himself, observing the fall with the precision of a scientist. "Every action leaves a trace," he said calmly. "Even something as minor as this contains information. Look at the trajectory, the impact points. It's a message. The world speaks to us, Michael, if we only know how to listen." Michael bent down to examine the fallen books, noting the subtle impressions left on the carpet, the angle of each object, the way dust particles settled around them, and in that meticulous attention, he found a strange comfort, as if by deciphering the physical manifestations of reality he could reclaim some control over the chaos swirling around him. Hours slipped by unnoticed as the men worked, the room becoming increasingly cluttered, an intricate ecosystem of thought made physical, each note, each sketch, each diagram forming part of a larger, incomprehensible whole. Michael's head began to ache from the intensity, yet he refused to step back, unwilling to relinquish the fragile grasp he had on the emerging pattern. Mark, sensing his friend's fatigue, offered a bottle of water, but Michael waved it away, focused entirely on the pursuit of understanding, the need to witness the invisible forces at work, the threads of causality that connected events, thoughts, and perceptions in a network too complex for ordinary minds but just within reach for those willing to look beyond the obvious. As the afternoon sun began to dip, casting longer shadows and deepening the contrast between light and dark, Michael noticed a shift in the energy of the room, subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but growing in intensity. The humming in the air became more pronounced, vibrating through his chest, resonating with his heartbeat, as if his body had become part of the system, a conduit for the room's energy, and he felt a strange exhilaration mixed with fear. "Do you feel it now?" Mark asked, voice low, almost reverent. Michael nodded, unable to articulate the sensation, aware only that it was real, undeniable, and overwhelming in its intensity. They moved toward a particular section of the wall, where a cluster of diagrams seemed to pulse with a strange rhythm, and Michael realized that the lines and shapes were not static, they were shifting imperceptibly, rearranging themselves, forming patterns that seemed almost alive, as if responding to their observation. "It's aware of us," Mark whispered. "The system knows we are here. It adapts. It communicates." Michael swallowed hard, trying to reconcile the sensation with reason, yet reason was failing him in the most exhilarating way, leaving him open to experience the unexplainable. He touched one of the diagrams tentatively, and felt a subtle warmth under his fingers, as if the paper itself were conducting some unknown energy, and a thrill shot through him, a mixture of awe and fear that left him momentarily breathless. "Mark," he said, voice shaking slightly, this is beyond anything I've ever imagined. Are we in control, or is it in control of us?" Mark smiled enigmatically, the thrill of discovery lighting his face. "Control is an illusion," he said. "What matters is perception. Once we understand perception, we understand reality, and then the possibilities are endless. We can interact, influence, and maybe even manipulate the very fabric of existence. But first, we must learn to listen, to observe without preconception, to let the system reveal its secrets without interference." Michael nodded slowly, feeling the truth in Mark's words, yet acutely aware of the danger inherent in surrendering completely to forces beyond comprehension. Yet he could not resist. He leaned closer to the diagrams, tracing the lines with his eyes, following the connections with his mind, and a strange clarity began to emerge. He noticed patterns repeating, echoes of events mirrored in other contexts, coincidences that were too consistent to be accidental, and he realized that Mark had been right, there was a system, a logic underpinning what had seemed random, chaotic, and meaningless. The room, the diagrams, the scattered books, the flickering light, even the hum in the air, all of it was part of a larger whole, a network of cause and effect, perception and reality, observation and influence, and the implications were staggering. Michael felt his mind expand, perceiving relationships he had never considered, connections between events, actions, and thoughts that transcended ordinary understanding, and he realized with a mixture of excitement and terror that they were not merely observing reality, they were participating in it, influencing it through attention, awareness, and focus, and the possibilities that opened before them were both exhilarating and frightening. Outside, the city moved in its usual rhythm, oblivious to the unfolding experiment in the small apartment, cars honking, people walking dogs, merchants opening shops, lives continuing in predictable patterns, yet inside, Michael and Mark were witnesses to and participants in a reality that was fluid, mutable, and alive, and as the shadows lengthened, the humming intensified, and the diagrams seemed to shift in response to their presence, Michael felt a sense of purpose, a thrill of discovery, and a flicker of fear all at once, understanding that this was only the beginning, that the journey ahead would challenge everything he believed, and yet, he could not turn away, for he had glimpsed the hidden structure of reality itself, and the lure of uncovering its secrets was irresistible, pulling him deeper into the labyrinth, where every discovery led to new questions, every connection opened new possibilities, and every step forward brought him closer to the edge of understanding, where perception and reality blurred, and the only certainty was that it was all in their heads, and yet, Within that truth lay a universe of potential, a cosmos waiting to be explored, understood, and maybe even mastered, if they had the courage, the insight, and the patience to see it through. As the evening deepened and the city outside bathed in the soft golden glow of the setting sun, Michael felt a subtle shift in his perception, a kind of hyper-awareness that made each sound, movement, and shadow seem amplified and significant, as if the ordinary apartment had transformed into a nexus of possibility, a place where every object, every note, every line on the diagram was a clue to something far greater than either of them had imagined, and he realized that the patterns Mark had been obsessively tracing were beginning to reveal themselves with startling clarity, their interconnections forming a complex lattice of cause and effect that extended beyond the walls of the room and, perhaps, beyond the city itself. Mark, sensing the change in Michael, paused mid-gesture, letting his eyes sweep over the diagrams, the scattered papers, and the walls plastered with annotations, and he smiled with a mix of triumph and relief, the kind of smile that comes from recognizing that a long, arduous struggle is beginning to bear fruit. "Do you see it now?" Mark asked, his voice lower, more deliberate, as if speaking too loudly might shatter the fragile equilibrium that had emerged in the room. Michael nodded, though he was not yet able to articulate the full scope of what he was perceiving, his mind whirring with the implications, processing relationships and correlations that once would have seemed impossible, seeing echoes of events mirrored across time and space in patterns that made his head spin with both exhilaration and apprehension. The light in the room shifted again, shadows lengthening and twisting across the walls, and Michael noticed that the diagrams themselves seemed to respond subtly to their observation, the lines bending, intersecting, and forming shapes that had not been there moments before, suggesting that the act of attention itself was influencing the system, confirming Mark's assertion that perception and reality were intertwined in ways that defied conventional logic. "It's adapting to us," Mark said, almost in awe, pacing with renewed energy, the room alive with his movements and murmurs. "Every action we take, every thought we focus on, ripples through the system. It's like a living organism, but one built entirely of perception, pattern, and consciousness. And now that we're part of it, we have the opportunity to guide it, shape it, understand it in ways no one else ever could." Michael felt a thrill of fear and possibility, a recognition that they were navigating uncharted territory, standing at the threshold of a reality that was mutable, responsive, and dangerous, where mistakes could have unpredictable consequences, yet the lure of discovery was irresistible. He moved to the center of the room, letting his gaze sweep across the walls, the diagrams, and the chaotic assortment of papers, notes, and maps that littered every available surface, and for the first time, he began to see a narrative emerge, a story that connected events, thoughts, and objects into a coherent framework, though one that was still astonishingly complex and fragile. Mark leaned over his shoulder, pointing to a series of arrows connecting events that had seemed unrelated at first glance, and Michael felt his understanding deepen as he traced the lines, noticing subtleties he had overlooked, the way small changes in one part of the pattern could produce cascading effects elsewhere, and the realization that they were not merely observers, but participants in a system that was as delicate as it was powerful. "Everything has a consequence," Mark said, voice low and insistent. "Even the smallest thought, the briefest observation, the tiniest action, each one contributes to the shape of the system, and by extension, the shape of reality. That's why we have to be precise, deliberate, and aware. One misstep, one lapse in focus, and the pattern could unravel." Michael swallowed hard, the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying, and yet he felt a surge of determination, a desire to engage fully with the system, to push the limits of perception, and to explore the boundaries of what they could understand and influence. He moved toward a cluster of sticky notes that formed a rough grid, each square filled with symbols, numbers, and shorthand annotations that at first seemed indecipherable, but as he studied them, he began to recognize recurring motifs, patterns of repetition and variation that suggested a deeper order beneath the apparent chaos, a rhythm that resonated with the humming that now filled the room, vibrating through the floor, walls, and ceiling, syncing with their own heartbeat and breathing. "Michael, touch it," Mark said suddenly, pointing to a specific intersection of lines and symbols. "Feel the energy. Sense the connections. The system responds to us when we engage with intention." Hesitant but curious, Michael placed his hand on the cluster, and an almost imperceptible warmth spread through his fingers, a subtle pulse that seemed to resonate with his own neural activity, and he felt a jolt of comprehension, the beginnings of insight into the way the patterns interconnected, how one node influenced another, and how perception itself could guide the evolution of the system. "Do you feel it?" Mark whispered, eyes alight with excitement. Michael nodded, unable to find words, overwhelmed by the intensity of the experience. He could see, sense, and intuit the connections, the invisible threads linking events, actions, and thoughts, the way the system was dynamic, responsive, and intelligent, yet not conscious in any human sense, more like a self-organizing entity guided by principles they were only beginning to grasp. Hours passed in a blur as they continued their exploration, the room becoming a nexus of thought, observation, and interaction, the diagrams shifting subtly, responding to focus and attention, and Michael found himself slipping into a state of heightened perception, where ordinary distinctions between self and environment blurred, and every sensation, movement, and thought contributed to the emergent order of the system. At one point, a sudden flash of light from the window caused both men to startle, but Michael realized it was simply a reflection of the setting sun bouncing off a nearby building, yet in that moment, he saw patterns in the light itself, reflections and refractions forming geometries that mirrored the diagrams, reinforcing the notion that the system extended beyond the walls, beyond the apartment, reaching into the world itself, and that their understanding of it had the potential to ripple outward in ways they could scarcely predict. "It's everywhere," Michael murmured, voice trembling with awe. "Not just here, not just in this room. It's in everything, every sound, every shadow, every action. We're part of it, but so is everything else." Mark nodded, eyes gleaming. "Exactly. And that's why we have to be meticulous. We have to learn to interact with it, to understand it, and to anticipate how it responds. Only then can we harness its potential, explore its boundaries, and maybe even influence the course of events beyond our immediate perception. Think of it, if we master this, we could predict outcomes, understand hidden causes, even shape reality in subtle, profound ways. But it requires discipline, observation, and patience." Michael felt the enormity of the challenge, the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, yet he was invigorated by the sense of purpose it provided, the realization that they were engaged in something far beyond ordinary life, a journey into the architecture of perception itself, where understanding and action intertwined in ways that could redefine the very notion of reality. He moved back to the center of the room, eyes scanning the shifting diagrams, trying to absorb the entirety of the system, the way lines connected, loops formed, and patterns emerged and dissolved, a dynamic interplay of order and chaos, repetition and variation, structure and fluidity, and he realized that the act of observation was inseparable from the act of participation, that to witness the system was to influence it, and that their understanding of it would evolve as they interacted with it more deeply. "Michael," Mark said suddenly, breaking the reverie, "look at this sequence. Notice how these events unfold, how small changes propagate through the network. It's like watching causality itself in motion, a living map of consequence, where attention and perception guide the outcome. If we can learn to read it, understand it, anticipate it, we can operate within it, not as passive observers, but as informed participants shaping the flow of events. Michael crouched to examine the sequence, tracing the lines with his fingers, feeling the subtle pulse of energy beneath the paper, sensing the resonance with the humming in the room, and for the first time, he felt a tangible connection to the system, an awareness that his own focus, thoughts, and decisions could have immediate and measurable effects on the patterns before him. The thrill of understanding mingled with the fear of error, the exhilaration of discovery tempered by the recognition of responsibility, and he knew that each step forward required both courage and precision, that missteps could produce unintended consequences, yet the opportunity to witness and interact with such a system was unparalleled, a gift and a challenge unlike anything he had encountered before. Hours slipped into night, and the city outside was awash in neon and streetlight, the hum of traffic and distant voices a subtle backdrop to the intense focus within the apartment, and Michael felt the boundaries between inside and outside, observer and participant, dissolve, leaving only the dynamic interplay of perception, attention, and consequence, and in that moment, he understood the truth Mark had been hinting at all along. It really was all in their heads, and yet, within that truth lay the extraordinary power to understand, influence, and perhaps even master the hidden structures of reality itself, if they could maintain their focus, patience, and clarity amidst the beautiful, terrifying, and infinitely complex chaos that surrounded them. By the time the room had fully surrendered to darkness, Michael could feel a subtle tension in the air, a kind of expectant silence that wasn't quiet so much as it was a hum of potential, as if the apartment itself were holding its breath, waiting for the next move, the next observation, the next spark of insight that might reveal yet another layer of the system they were unraveling. And he realized that despite the hours of intense focus, they were barely scratching the surface, that the diagrams, the notes, and the scattered papers were only the visible tip of an enormous, intricate iceberg whose vast, unseen structure stretched outward, invisible yet undeniably present, connecting thought, action, and perception in patterns that defied comprehension but were nevertheless accessible if one's attention was sufficiently attuned. Mark, pacing the room with a renewed energy born of insight and obsession, picked up a whiteboard he had propped against the far wall and began sketching rapidly, lines connecting points, spirals forming around intersections, arrows doubling back on themselves in loops that seemed paradoxical at first glance but radiated a kind of internal logic that Michael was starting to sense. The very act of watching the system evolve as he studied it giving him a sense of participation and influence that thrilled and terrified him in equal measure. "Michael," Mark said suddenly, stopping mid-gesture, eyes fixed on the spiraling lines he had just drawn, "do you see the recursion here? Every output feeds back into the system as input, every observation alters the network, and yet the structure remains coherent, resilient. It's adaptive, responsive, alive in a sense we can perceive but not fully comprehend." Michael moved closer, leaning over the whiteboard to trace the lines with his fingers, feeling the subtle energy vibrating through the markers and the board itself, a faint resonance that seemed to sync with the humming in the room, amplifying the sense that they were not merely observing a static pattern but interacting with a dynamic, evolving network that responded to thought, attention, and intention in real time. "It's like a feedback loop of consciousness," he said, voice low and reverent, "where our perception becomes part of the system, influencing its state, which in turn influences what we perceive, and on, endlessly." Mark nodded, a smile of exhilaration spreading across his face. "Exactly. And that is why focus is critical. Every action, every thought, every glance has a measurable impact. We can guide it, but only if we remain aware, deliberate, and precise. The smallest lapse, the tiniest distraction, could ripple through the network in ways we cannot predict. But within those constraints lies incredible potential to anticipate, to shape, to understand hidden structures, to perceive connections no one else sees." Michael felt his head spin with the possibilities, his mind racing to integrate what he was seeing with what he was beginning to feel in his body, a kind of resonance that made the hair on his arms stand on end, the very air around them seeming to pulse in time with their combined focus, and he realized that he had never experienced anything like this, that this was a moment of both discovery and revelation, a rare opportunity to witness the invisible architecture of causality and perception in action. Hours bled into one another as they continued their work, the diagrams growing more complex, the patterns more intricate, and Michael began to notice emergent properties, subtle repetitions, hidden symmetries, unexpected intersections, that suggested the system was evolving on its own, independent yet responsive, its rules flexible, yet internally consistent, a kind of living logic that both obeyed and transcended human understanding. At one point, Michael paused, staring at a cluster of arrows and nodes, and felt an almost overwhelming sense of vertigo, as if the entire network of lines and symbols was expanding outward, connecting to events and actions far beyond the apartment, reaching into the city, into the lives of countless people whose experiences intersected with theirs in ways invisible yet undeniable, a network of causality and consequence that was both terrifying in its magnitude and exhilarating in its clarity. "Mark," he whispered, voice tight with awe and fear, this goes beyond the room, beyond the diagrams, beyond us. It's like a web that stretches everywhere, connecting everything, and we're just a small part of it, observing and influencing, but only a small part." Mark's eyes gleamed with intensity. "And that's the beauty of it. Awareness is the first step. Observation is the second. Action, deliberate and precise, is the third. We can learn to navigate it, to map it, to understand it. And once we do, we can anticipate, influence, even manipulate outcomes in ways most people would never believe. But it requires patience, discipline, and focus. There is no shortcut." Michael nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders, yet simultaneously exhilarated by the challenge, the rare combination of dread and thrill that comes from standing at the edge of understanding, looking out at a universe of patterns and possibilities that defied ordinary comprehension, yet beckoned with the promise of mastery. He turned back to the wall, letting his eyes roam over the shifting diagrams, the lines, the spirals, the intersections, feeling the subtle hum in the air vibrate through his chest and spine, and he began to notice patterns in his own thought, a kind of resonance between his mental activity and the emergent behavior of the system, a synchronization that felt almost symbiotic, as if the more he understood, the more the system revealed, and the more the system revealed, the deeper his understanding became. "It's responding to us," he murmured, almost to himself, not just passively, but actively, adapting to what we perceive, what we focus on, what we attend to. Mark nodded, moving to stand beside him. "Yes. And that's why every detail matters. A glance, a thought, a subtle shift in attention, each one propagates through the network, altering the trajectory of events, shaping outcomes in ways we are only beginning to perceive. The system is malleable, but it is not static. We have to move with it, think with it, and respect its rules, even as we explore its boundaries." Michael felt a shiver of both excitement and fear, the realization of the system's complexity settling over him like a dense fog, both limiting and expanding his perception simultaneously, and yet he could not turn away. There was too much to see, too much to understand, too much to engage with, and the thrill of discovery outweighed the apprehension, drawing him deeper into the labyrinth of interconnected lines, nodes, and patterns. He crouched to examine a particularly complex section of the diagrams, tracing the spirals with his fingers, feeling the subtle warmth and vibration beneath his touch, and for the first time, he noticed a recursive loop, a set of events feeding back into themselves in a manner that suggested self-regulation, adaptation, and emergent intelligence, a mechanism by which the system maintained coherence even as it evolved, and Michael's breath caught as he realized the significance. The network was Not merely a collection of observations and correlations, but a living, responsive architecture of perception and consequence, capable of learning, adapting, and guiding outcomes in ways that seemed almost sentient. Mark leaned over his shoulder, eyes alight with discovery. Exactly, he said softly. Notice how the loop maintains balance. Each input is processed, influencing the output, which becomes input again. It's self-correcting, yet responsive. We can anticipate its behavior, learn its rhythm, and begin to interact with it deliberately, not just reactively. This is the key, Michael, the interface between awareness and influence. Michael felt a rush of comprehension, the pieces clicking into place, revealing a metapattern that connected observation, perception, and action into a coherent framework, and he realized that this was more than just a puzzle or a system. It was a portal into a higher-order understanding of reality itself, where human cognition, focus, and intention intersected with patterns of causality, perception, and consequence, and where mastery required not brute force or calculation, but attention, patience, and insight. They worked late into the night, the room becoming a nexus of concentrated thought and perception, the diagrams evolving as they interacted with them, the air vibrating with energy, and Michael felt a sense of communion with the patterns, a resonance that was simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying, knowing that they were exploring something fundamentally new, something that transcended ordinary experience, and yet was profoundly, tangibly real. Outside, Los Angeles continued in its usual rhythm, oblivious to the extraordinary experiment unfolding in a small apartment, cars honking, streetlights flickering, people moving through their lives unaware of the hidden architecture of perception and consequence that connected them all, yet within the apartment, Michael and Mark were fully immersed, participants in a system that was alive, dynamic, and responsive, and as Michael traced another line, connecting two seemingly unrelated events, he felt a thrill of discovery unlike anything he had ever experienced, a sense that they were standing at the threshold of understanding something vast, intricate, and beautiful, a revelation that was simultaneously empowering, humbling, and profoundly awe-inspiring, and he knew with certainty that they could not turn back, that this journey had begun in earnest, and that the boundaries of perception, reality, and consequence were theirs to explore, navigate, and, perhaps, master. The room had transformed into something beyond comprehension, a living organism composed of paper, ink, and the heightened perception of two men who were now fully immersed in its chaotic order, and Michael felt the weight of both exhilaration and responsibility pressing down on him as he traced the convoluted lines, spirals, and arrows that Mark had meticulously drawn, seeing for the first time the interconnections between events, actions, and perceptions in a way that made the apartment seem simultaneously familiar and alien, as if it had taken on a consciousness that was responding to their attention and focus, amplifying every observation, and turning each minor detail into a potential revelation. Mark was moving with a frenetic energy, his eyes bright with a manic kind of clarity, sketching new patterns, erasing lines, and redrawing them in ways that seemed impossible to predict, yet perfectly coherent within the logic of the system, and Michael realized that they were both participants and instruments of a network that extended far beyond the walls, beyond the city, and perhaps beyond the normal bounds of time and space, the implications staggering and slightly terrifying in their enormity. Michael, Mark said suddenly, pointing to a set of intersecting lines on the whiteboard, look at this sequence. Notice how these events mirror each other, how actions in one part of the system ripple across nodes we couldn't anticipate. It's adaptive, self-correcting, yet responsive to intention. Do you see how it responds to our attention? Michael leaned closer, feeling a subtle vibration through the floor and into his chest as he traced the lines with his finger, a physical manifestation of the system's responsiveness, and he realized that he could influence it, however slightly, merely through observation and focus, the act of paying attention creating consequences in ways that were both exhilarating and terrifying. "It's alive," he whispered, almost reverently, as he felt the hum in the air intensify, resonating in sync with his heartbeat and breathing, the boundaries between observer and system dissolving until he could no longer tell where he ended and the patterns began, a strange communion of perception and consequence that left him simultaneously empowered and humbled. Mark smiled, nodding, his expression a mixture of triumph and anticipation. "Alive, yes, but not conscious in the way we are. Think of it as a dynamic network, responsive to input, evolving based on feedback, but guided by internal logic rather than intentional thought. That's what makes it so fascinating, and so dangerous. We can interact with it, but we must do so carefully, with precision and awareness. Every thought, every glance, every action has weight." Michael nodded, trying to absorb the enormity of the truth, his mind racing with the implications of what they were witnessing, how this network of patterns could connect to events outside their apartment, how observation and focus could subtly shift outcomes, how perception itself had become a tool, a lever, and a lens through which reality could be shaped and understood. He moved back to the wall, eyes scanning the web of lines and sticky notes, letting the patterns emerge without forcing them, trying to balance curiosity with patience, insight with caution, and as he observed, he began to notice emergent properties, symmetries, repetitions, self-correcting loops, that hinted at a deeper order, a structure that was dynamic yet coherent, fragile yet resilient, a system that demanded both respect and engagement. The hours passed almost unnoticed as they continued their work, the diagrams evolving in real time, responding to their focus and interaction, and Michael felt an almost addictive thrill in the act of discovery, a sense of purpose and clarity that was simultaneously exhilarating and exhausting, a mental high born of engagement with something vast, intricate, and alive. He began to see patterns within patterns, connections linking not just events and actions, but ideas, intentions, and perceptions, a multidimensional lattice of causality and consequence, and he realized that the room, the diagrams, and the humming energy surrounding them were only the beginning, a tangible manifestation of a network that extended outward, connecting moments, decisions, and experiences in ways that were invisible yet undeniable, and he understood that their understanding of it could only grow with attention, observation, and careful interaction. "Mark," he said at last, voice tinged with awe and fear, "I think I'm beginning to see it, not just the patterns, but how we fit within them. Our perception isn't separate from reality, it's a part of it. Our attention, our focus, our intention, they're threads in the web, and the system responds to us as we respond to it." Mark's eyes gleamed with recognition and excitement. "Exactly. And that is why precision matters. We can't just look or think, we must understand, anticipate, and interact deliberately. Each thought, each glance, each decision is a node of influence, shaping the flow of the network. It's a dialogue, Michael, a conversation between us and the system, and every input carries weight." Michael nodded, feeling both the thrill and the burden of the responsibility, the exhilarating sense that they were standing at the edge of comprehension, witnessing and participating in a reality that was fluid, adaptive, and responsive, yet comprehensible if approached with patience, focus, and insight. He crouched to examine a particularly intricate section of diagrams, where spirals intertwine with arrows, numbers, and symbols, forming patterns that seemed to evolve even as he traced them with his eyes and fingers, and he realized that the system was not static but self-modifying, learning, adapting, and responding to the input of observation itself, a living feedback loop of perception, intention, and consequence, and he felt a thrill unlike anything he had experienced before, a surge of mental clarity and physical awareness as he became aware of his role within the system. The room seemed to vibrate in resonance with his thoughts, subtle shifts in light and shadow amplifying the sense that the apartment itself was a participant, a dynamic canvas upon which the hidden architecture of reality was being revealed, and Michael felt a shiver of awe and apprehension, knowing that the patterns they were observing were both fragile and potent, capable of shifting outcomes, influencing events, and exposing truths previously invisible. "Do you feel it?" Mark asked softly, eyes bright with intensity. "The feedback? The way focus itself has power here?" Michael nodded, breath shallow, attuned to the resonance that seemed to hum through his chest, limbs, and mind, a subtle but undeniable awareness that observation itself was shaping the network, and that their engagement had consequences far beyond the immediate room. He felt a mixture of exhilaration and fear at the realization that they were participants in a system that extended into the city, the world, perhaps even further, invisible yet tangible, responsive yet structured, alive yet not conscious, a network of perception and consequence whose magnitude both humbled and invigorated him. Mark moved to a stack of papers and began adding new lines, connecting notes that Michael had just begun to perceive, and as he did, Michael felt the patterns shift, subtle loops forming, new intersections appearing, and a realization settled over him with clarity. The act of attention, observation, and deliberate interaction was not passive, it was active, creative, and influential, capable of shaping outcomes, guiding events, and revealing hidden structures of reality that had been obscured. Until now. Hours slipped into night, the world outside a blur of lights, noise, and movement, oblivious to the intense exploration within the apartment, and Michael felt the exhilaration of discovery entwined with the careful awareness of responsibility, knowing that each insight, each connection, each interaction carried weight, that the network was responsive, adaptive, and alive, and that their engagement with it could have consequences they might never fully predict. And yet, in the midst of the intensity, a strange calm emerged, a sense of purpose and clarity born from immersion in a system both vast and intimate, intricate and coherent, chaotic yet ordered, a realization that they were engaged in something far beyond ordinary life, standing at the edge of understanding, on the cusp of mastery, navigating the delicate balance between observation, interaction, and influence, and understanding that though it was all in their heads, it was simultaneously real, potent, and transformative, a doorway into a realm where perception shaped reality, where awareness created consequence, and where the possibilities for insight, discovery, and understanding were limited only by their focus, patience, and imagination. The night deepened around the apartment, the city outside continuing its indifferent rhythm, oblivious to the extraordinary experiment unfolding within, and Michael felt a heightened awareness of the contrast between the ordinary world beyond the windows and the extraordinary microcosm that Mark had created, a space alive with thought, energy, and the intricate web of interconnections that had become both their challenge and their obsession, and he realized with a mixture of awe and apprehension that they were now explorers in a realm defined not by physical laws alone, but by the malleable interplay of perception, attention, and consequence, where understanding and action were inseparable, and where the act of observing was simultaneously an act of influencing. Mark, sensing Michael's absorption, moved with deliberate precision, adding new diagrams, connecting notes with arrows, numbering intersections, and annotating each with cryptic symbols that suggested probability, causality, and feedback loops, and Michael felt himself drawn into the rhythm, his own thoughts aligning with the patterns, perceiving correlations and sequences that seemed to emerge organically, almost as if the room itself were guiding their focus, responding to the clarity of their attention. "Michael, notice the interactions here," Mark said, gesturing to a complex cluster of intersecting lines. "See how a single input propagates through multiple nodes, how one decision, one observation, creates a ripple effect. Each action is amplified, each focus carries weight. We are learning to speak the language of the system." Michael crouched, tracing the lines with his fingers, feeling a subtle warmth and vibration in the paper, as if the system recognized their attention and responded, and in that moment, he realized that their perception was not passive. Every thought, glance, and decision became a variable, an influence, a shaping force within a living network that extended far beyond the confines of the room. "It's incredible," he murmured, voice barely audible. "It's like reality is a conversation, and we're finally able to participate." Mark nodded, eyes bright with intensity. "Exactly. Observation is dialogue. Awareness is influence. The more attuned we are, the more responsive the system becomes. But we must maintain focus, discipline, and patience. Any lapse, any distraction, and the network could shift unpredictably." Michael felt the weight of that responsibility pressing on him, tempered by exhilaration, knowing that their understanding was both fragile and potent, that mastery required not just intelligence or curiosity, but mindfulness, presence, and precision, and that the consequences of error could be subtle yet profound. He moved back to the wall of diagrams, scanning the lines, arrows, and spirals, noticing patterns he had previously overlooked, connections that were invisible until he approached them with deliberate attention, and the realization dawned that the network was recursive, self-reinforcing, and adaptive, capable of evolving as they engaged with it, learning from their observation, integrating their actions, and responding in ways that were complex, coherent, and astonishingly intelligent. The hum in the room intensified subtly, vibrating through the walls, floor, and ceiling, and Michael felt it resonate within his own body, synchronizing with heartbeat and breath, a tangible manifestation of the system's presence and responsiveness, and he shivered at the realization that the boundaries between themselves, the room, and the network were dissolving, merging into a continuum of perception, action, and consequence, where observer and observed were inseparable and interdependent. "It's alive," Michael whispered, almost to himself, aware that the word carried both reverence and fear, and Mark smiled knowingly. "Alive, yes, but not conscious in the human sense. Think of it as a network, dynamic and self-correcting, responding to focus and intention, but guided by internal logic rather than emotion or desire. That's what makes it beautiful, and what makes mastery possible." Hours passed in a blur, the outside world fading as they immersed themselves deeper into the evolving network, each line, arrow, and notation revealing new insights, each observation shifting patterns in subtle ways, and Michael felt a mental clarity and physical awareness unlike anything he had ever known, a sense of communion with something vast, intricate, and alive, yet comprehensible, if only partially, through focus, patience, and deliberate engagement. He noticed emergent loops, sequences that fed back on themselves, and notes that seemed to act as hubs of influence, amplifying small changes across the network in cascading effects, and he realized that this system was not static but dynamic, capable of integrating input, adapting to perturbations, and evolving over time, a living map of causality and perception in constant flux, responsive to attention and intention, and infinitely intricate. "Michael," Mark said, voice low and urgent, "do you see it? The loops, the feedback, the way everything is interconnected? We're not just observing, we're participating. Every thought, glance, and decision is part of the system now. We are influencing it, shaping it, learning to communicate with it. That is the essence of mastery." Michael nodded, breath shallow, feeling the resonance of the system in his chest, limbs, and mind, aware that the act of participation was both exhilarating and terrifying, that the network's complexity was beyond complete comprehension, yet he could perceive enough to act, influence, and explore, and that awareness alone was power, a form of interaction with reality that transcended conventional understanding. They worked through the night, the room a hive of observation, attention, and interaction, the diagrams growing more intricate, the spirals, arrows, and notes forming patterns that evolved in real time, and Michael began to notice a strange synchronicity between their focus and the subtle shifts in the network, a resonance that suggested their engagement was not merely observation but active influence, a kind of dialogue between human perception and the hidden structure of causality. At one point, Michael paused, tracing a particularly complex sequence, and felt a surge of understanding, a fleeting but profound clarity of the underlying logic, a realization that observation, attention, and intention were not separate from reality but components of it, shaping outcomes and revealing structures that had been invisible until now. And he felt a thrill of exhilaration tempered by awe at the responsibility inherent in that understanding. "It's not just patterns anymore," he whispered. "It's a system, alive and responsive. Every action we take matters." Mark nodded, a grin spreading across his face. "Exactly. And that is why we must remain disciplined, precise, and aware. The system is generous to those who focus, but unforgiving to those who act carelessly. We can learn to navigate it, to anticipate outcomes, even to influence events beyond this room, but only through respect, patience, and sustained attention." Michael felt a sense of both awe and empowerment, understanding that they were now engaged in a level of perception and interaction that few had ever experienced, where the act of awareness itself was a form of influence, and the boundaries between observer and system were fluid, intertwined, and dynamic, a space where insight, attention, and consequence converged. The hum in the air deepened, resonating through the walls and floor, as if the apartment itself had become a participant in the unfolding system, reflecting, amplifying, and responding to their engagement, and Michael shivered at the realization that they were now fully enmeshed in something vast, intricate, and alive, capable of shaping reality in subtle, profound, and unpredictable ways. As he scanned the diagrams, connecting notes in his mind, tracing patterns in the spirals and arrows, he felt a rush of clarity and comprehension, a sense that they were standing at the threshold of understanding something monumental, a structure of perception and consequence that extended far beyond the walls, beyond the city, perhaps even beyond time itself, and yet, in that vast complexity, there was order, coherence, and potential, if approached with focus, patience, and deliberate engagement. Mark moved beside him, eyes bright, observing Michael's focus and the subtle shifts in the network, and said softly, "We are at the edge now, Michael. The next step will test everything we know, everything we've observed, everything we've understood. But if we proceed carefully, deliberately, with awareness and precision, the possibilities are extraordinary. We can explore the hidden architecture of reality itself, interact with it, and perhaps even influence outcomes in ways that are subtle, profound, and transformative." Michael took a deep breath, feeling the resonance of the system, the vibrations through his body, the hum in the air, the subtle shifts in patterns responding to his attention, and he knew that Mark was right. They were on the edge of something immense, a threshold between ordinary perception and extraordinary understanding, where observation, attention, and intention were not merely passive acts but active tools, capable of shaping, revealing, and interacting with a hidden order that had always been present, yet invisible, waiting for those willing to engage fully with its complexity, to navigate its intricacies, and to respect its power. And in that moment, as the night deepened and the diagrams shifted in subtle, responsive ways, Michael understood with absolute clarity that it really was all in their heads, and yet, paradoxically, within that truth lay a universe of potential, a reality alive with possibility, a system waiting to be explored, understood, and navigated by those willing to see, observe, and participate fully. As the first hints of dawn began to seep through the blinds, casting a faint, golden light across the walls cluttered with diagrams, sticky notes, and scattered papers, Michael felt an odd mix of exhaustion and exhilaration, his mind buzzing with connections, patterns, and possibilities, each thought vibrating in resonance with the subtle hum that now seemed inseparable from the apartment itself, as though the space had taken on a sentience defined not by consciousness, but by responsiveness. An awareness of their observation, engagement, and attention that amplified each insight while demanding ever greater focus, and he realized that the room had become more than a physical space, it was a dynamic interface, a medium through which they could explore and influence the hidden architecture of causality and perception, and the sheer magnitude of what they were discovering both thrilled and terrified him. Mark, energized and almost impossibly alert despite the long hours, moved to a cluster of diagrams in the far corner, his fingers tracing complex interconnections while his eyes darted across nodes, spirals, and arrows that seemed to pulse with a subtle life of their own, and Michael could sense the intensity of his focus radiating outward, merging with his own awareness to form a feedback loop, an invisible circuit through which the system itself responded, evolved, and revealed layers of structure that were simultaneously intricate and astonishingly coherent. "Look here," Mark said, voice taut with excitement, "see how the sequence of events here mirrors another set over there. Small variations in one propagate across multiple nodes, yet the system maintains equilibrium, self-correcting and adapting in real time. It's recursive, dynamic, and responsive, and now that we are fully engaged, we can influence it with intention, guiding its evolution without breaking its coherence." Michael leaned closer, tracing the lines with his fingers, feeling the faint warm and almost imperceptible vibration through the paper, a tangible signal that their attention was being registered, that the system was not passive but interactive, and he marveled at the elegance of the feedback loops, the intricate nesting of cause, effect, and perception, and the way that even minor inputs produced ripples that extended across the network, revealing new connections and possibilities in real time. "It's more than alive," Michael said softly, voice tinged with awe. "It's aware in a way we can perceive, even if it's not conscious like we are. And our awareness is part of it, part of the input, part of the structure itself." Mark nodded, eyes bright, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Yes, but remember, awareness alone is not enough. Observation is influence, yes, but deliberate interaction is mastery. We can guide, anticipate, and shape outcomes, but only through focused, precise engagement. A lapse, a distraction, a casual glance, and the system could shift unpredictably. That's why every detail matters, every input counts, and every moment of attention carries weight." Michael felt the gravity of those words, the simultaneous exhilaration and responsibility that came with the recognition that their perception was inseparable from consequence, and that navigating this network required not only intelligence and insight but discipline, patience, and mindfulness, a careful balance between engagement and observation, curiosity and restraint. He moved to another section of the diagrams, where spirals overlapped in seemingly chaotic patterns, yet as he studied them, he began to perceive an underlying order, a metapattern that connected nodes, sequences, and loops into an elegant lattice of cause, effect, and feedback, and he realized with a thrill of comprehension that the network was both self-organizing and adaptive, capable of learning from observation and integrating input in ways that produce emergent structures, patterns that were coherent, resilient, and infinitely intricate. "Michael, notice this loop," Mark said urgently, pointing to a nested sequence of arrows and symbols. "See how small perturbations here propagate across multiple nodes, yet the system stabilizes? It's adaptive. It learns. And now, as we interact, it incorporates our focus and intention. Every observation matters. Every action, deliberate or otherwise, shapes its evolution." Michael nodded, feeling a subtle resonance throughout his body, a hum that aligned with the vibrations in the air and the shifting diagrams, as though his own awareness had become a component of the system, integrated into its adaptive logic, and he shivered with a mix of awe and apprehension at the realization that they were participants in a living network of perception and consequence, where the act of observation was inseparable from the act of influence. Hours blurred into one another as they continued their work, the diagrams growing increasingly intricate, the spirals, nodes, and arrows forming patterns that evolve almost in real time, responding to their focus, attention, and engagement, and Michael began to notice subtle cues, variations in line thickness, shifts in angles, tiny adjustments in the placement of nodes, that seemed to indicate the system's responsiveness, its capacity to communicate through subtle, almost imperceptible changes. Rewarding focus and careful observation while testing patience and precision. "Do you feel it?" Mark asked, leaning closer, eyes bright with excitement. "The way it responds? The subtle feedback? Our attention is shaping the system, guiding its evolution. It's a dialogue, Michael, a living conversation between perception and structure, observation and consequence. We are participants now, not just witnesses." Michael exhaled slowly, absorbing the depth of the statement, realizing that everything they were seeing, feeling, and thinking was simultaneously part of a complex, adaptive network, one that extended beyond the apartment, beyond the diagrams, perhaps into the city itself, connecting events, actions, and thoughts in patterns that were invisible to ordinary perception but revealed themselves to those willing to engage fully, observe carefully, and act deliberately. "It's staggering," Michael murmured. "The scale, the complexity, and yet it makes sense, almost naturally. The system is coherent, adaptive, and responsive. And we were part of it." Mark nodded, a gleam of pride in his eyes. "Exactly. And that is why every action, every thought, every choice of focus matters. We can learn to navigate it, to anticipate consequences, to guide outcomes. But it requires full engagement, clarity, and patience. One lapse, one misstep, and we could disrupt the delicate balance. Mastery is possible, but only through respect, discipline, and insight." Michael felt both daunted and exhilarated, understanding that they were on the threshold of an extraordinary capability, a level of perception and interaction that few humans had ever experienced, a realm where awareness itself was a tool, a lever, and a medium for influence, and where understanding and action were inseparable. He moved to a section of the wall where spirals converged in complex intersections, tracing the lines with his fingers and noticing how the system seemed to shift subtly in response to his attention, subtle rearrangements that revealed new patterns, new connections, and new sequences, and he felt a thrill of discovery unlike anything he had ever known, a mental clarity and focus amplified by the resonance of the system itself. The hum in the apartment intensified, vibrating through walls, floor, and ceiling, merging with the rhythm of their own attention and thought, and Michael felt a strange but exhilarating sense of symbiosis, as though they were simultaneously part of the system and observers of it, a dynamic interplay where their focus shaped the network, and the network shaped their perception, creating a feedback loop of comprehension, influence, and revelation. "Michael," Mark said softly, almost reverently, "we are at a threshold now. Beyond this point, every decision, every focus, every observation becomes exponentially more significant. The network will respond more strongly, reveal deeper patterns, and test our ability to perceive, anticipate, and influence. But the rewards, the understanding, the insight, will also be extraordinary. Are you ready to take that step?" Michael took a deep breath, feeling the hum in the room vibrate through him, aligning with his heartbeat, his breathing, and his mental focus, and he realized that he was ready, that the pull of discovery, the thrill of understanding, and the responsibility of engagement had converged into a single moment of clarity, and he nodded slowly. "Yes," he said. "I'm ready. Let's see what lies beyond the next layer." and with that, the room seemed to pulse with renewed intensity, the diagrams shifting subtly, the spirals deepening, the notes intersecting in ways that suggested layers of complexity previously hidden, and Michael understood that this journey, once begun, could not be reversed, that they had entered a domain of perception and influence that demanded attention, courage, and insight, and that within this living network, it really was all in their heads, but within that truth lay a universe of possibilities, a system alive with potential, responsive to focus, and waiting for those willing to explore, understand, and navigate its intricate, beautiful, and infinitely complex architecture. The morning light gradually deepened, spilling across the cluttered walls and illuminating the intricate web of diagrams, spirals, arrows, and sticky notes that now dominated the apartment, and Michael felt a strange, almost dizzying sense of continuity between himself, Mark, and the patterns they had created, as though the room had become a living organism whose behavior was partially dictated by their observation, partially autonomous, yet entirely coherent, a dynamic system of perception, consequence, and interaction that defied ordinary understanding and demanded a level of awareness that bordered on obsession, a state both exhilarating and terrifying in its intensity. Mark, his energy seemingly undiminished by the long night of observation and analysis, moved with a precision born of focus and purpose, his hands tracing lines, connecting notes, and annotating intersections in a fluid dance that was at once chaotic and meticulously ordered, and Michael marveled at the subtle interplay of his companion's intuition, experience, and perception with the evolving patterns, the diagrams responding to their attention in ways that made the network seem almost sentient, not conscious like humans, but alive with responsiveness, self-correction, and emergent logic. Michael, focus on this section, Mark said, pointing to a cluster of spirals and arrows that had grown more intricate with each hour. Notice how the sequences interweave, how actions in one node propagate through multiple layers, generating feedback that stabilizes the system while revealing new possibilities. It's adaptive, but it responds to deliberate attention. Observation is influence here, remember that. Michael leaned over the diagrams, tracing the intersecting lines with his fingers, feeling the subtle vibrations in the paper and the air as if the network itself were acknowledging his engagement, and he realized with a thrill that their perception was now an active input, an integral part of the system, and that mastery of the patterns required not only careful observation but intentional, focused interaction, a delicate balance of curiosity and restraint. It's almost overwhelming, Michael murmured, voice low, the scale, the complexity, the way it responds to us. It's alive in its own way, and we're part of it. Mark nodded, eyes gleaming with intensity, a slow smile spreading across his face. Exactly. But remember, alive doesn't mean conscious in human terms. It's a network of causality, feedback, and perception, adaptive and coherent, and it learns from interaction. Our awareness is input, our attention shapes outcomes. One misstep, one lapse in focus, and the network could shift unpredictably. That's why discipline is crucial. That's why patience, mindfulness, and precision matter more than anything else. Michael absorbed the weight of those words, feeling the simultaneous exhilaration and responsibility, the sense that their engagement had consequences that extended far beyond the apartment, beyond the diagrams, perhaps even into the city, the lives of people whose actions and events intersected invisibly with their own, forming a vast lattice of causality, influence, and perception that few humans could ever glimpse, and even fewer could interact with consciously. He crouched to examine a particularly dense cluster of spirals, tracing the sequences with his fingers, and he began to notice emergent properties, loops that fed back on themselves, nodes that amplified input in subtle ways, sequences that echoed across distant parts of the diagram, creating fractal patterns of cause, effect, and perception, a living architecture of reality that was simultaneously comprehensible and infinitely complex. Do you see it? Mark asked, leaning over Michael's shoulder. Notice how one action propagates through multiple nodes, yet the system maintains coherence. It's self-correcting, adaptive, and responsive. And now, our input is part of it. We are influencing it as much as observing it. Michael felt a shiver of awareness and awe at the thought. The hum in the apartment deepened, vibrating through floor, walls, and ceiling, resonating in his chest and limbs, synchronizing with his thoughts and attention, and he realized that the boundary between observer and system had dissolved, that they were participants in a network of perception and consequence that extended far beyond ordinary comprehension, yet revealed itself to those willing to focus, observe, and interact with precision. Hours passed almost unnoticed as they continued, tracing patterns, connecting nodes, annotating spirals, and observing feedback, their engagement deepening both understanding and influence, a dance between perception, attention, and outcome in which neither could act alone, and every thought, glance, and gesture mattered. Michael noticed subtle shifts in line thickness, tiny adjustments in angles, the emergence of new intersections, each hinting at the responsiveness of the network, the ways it rewarded attention and precise interaction, and he began to feel a strange, almost euphoric clarity, a sense that their combined focus had become a conduit, a channel through which the system communicated, revealing patterns, sequences, and feedback loops that were previously invisible, a dialogue of perception and consequence unfolding in real time. Michael, Mark said quietly, voice taut with anticipation, we are at the threshold. Beyond this point, every input, every thought, glance, or action, will have amplified impact. The system will test us, reveal hidden layers, and demand a full measure of focus, insight, and precision. But if we proceed deliberately, the rewards, the understanding, the insight, will be extraordinary. Are you ready? Michael inhaled deeply, feeling the resonance of the patterns, the subtle vibrations in the air, and the intertwining of attention, observation, and consequence as if his very presence had become a variable in a vast, adaptive system, and he knew that there was no turning back. Yes, he said firmly. I'm ready. Let's explore the next layer. The diagrams shifted subtly, spirals deepening, nodes intersecting in ways that suggested previously hidden sequences, feedback loops becoming more apparent, and Michael felt a sense of vertigo, a mixture of exhilaration and apprehension, knowing that they were engaged with a system whose depth and complexity defied ordinary comprehension, yet which responded to intention, focus, and awareness with clarity, coherence, and emergent intelligence. The hum in the room intensified, vibrating in rhythm with his heartbeat, synchronizing with Mark's movements, thoughts, and attention, and Michael realized that the apartment itself had become a living interface, a conduit for the interplay of perception, intention, and consequence, where every observation was simultaneously an input, and every input rippled outward, shaping the structure in subtle, profound, and unpredictable ways. He crouched to study a complex intersection, tracing spirals with his fingertips, noticing how changes in one segment propagated through the network, creating patterns of balance, symmetry, and unexpected connections, and he felt an intoxicating clarity, a mental sharpness and resonance that seemed to expand his perception beyond the ordinary limits of mind and body, making him aware of feedback loops in both the diagrams and his own thought processes, a meta-awareness that both empowered and humbled him. Mark, it's incredible, he whispered, breath shallow, the responsiveness, the patterns we're part of it, and it's part of us. Observation is influence. Focus is consequence. Mark smiled knowingly. Exactly. And that is why discipline matters. Precision, patience, clarity, these are the tools we need. The system will test us, challenge us, reveal itself layer by layer. But the insights, the connections, the understanding they will be transformative. Step carefully, observe closely, and engage deliberately. The possibilities are endless, but the responsibility is real. Michael nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility mingled with exhilaration, the recognition that they were now participants in a living network that extended far beyond the confines of the apartment, yet revealed itself through careful observation, focused attention, and intentional interaction, a system where perception shaped outcome, and outcome reshaped perception in a dynamic interplay that was both beautiful and profound. Hours passed unnoticed, the outside world fading into background noise, as they traced patterns, observed feedback, and explored emergent connections, and Michael realized that the hum, the vibration, and the subtle shifts in the diagrams were not merely phenomena but a form of communication, a dialogue between human consciousness and the adaptive, responsive architecture of the system itself, a conversation that demanded focus, patience, and deliberate engagement. He leaned back, eyes scanning the web of spirals, arrows, and nodes, feeling the resonance of awareness and attention intertwining with the emergent patterns, and he understood with absolute clarity that they had crossed a threshold, entering a domain where observation, intention, and consequence were inseparable, and where mastery required not brute force or calculation, but insight, discipline, and respect. And in that awareness, Michael realized that it really was all in their heads, but within that truth lay a universe of potential, a living, responsive system that waited for those willing to observe, participate, and engage with clarity, patience, and focus, a system that was simultaneously infinite, intricate, and profoundly beautiful. By mid-morning, the apartment had become an almost sacred space, a labyrinth of paper, ink, and observation, and Michael felt a peculiar blend of exhilaration and exhaustion as he moved through it, tracing spirals, arrows, and notes with his fingers while absorbing the subtle feedback from the network they had been cultivating, the hum in the air resonating with the rhythm of his heartbeat, the patterns shifting ever so slightly in response to his attention, his focus, and his intention, a living dialogue between perception and consequence that seemed to extend far beyond the walls of the room and into the invisible architecture of the world itself, connecting events, actions, and choices in ways that were imperceptible to ordinary observation but immediately tangible to those who had trained themselves to perceive the hidden lattice of causality. Mark was moving around the apartment with an energy that was almost superhuman, adding new lines, connecting distant nodes, annotating spirals, and erasing portions only to redraw them in ways that seemed chaotic at first glance, but which, when viewed as part of the larger network, revealed a remarkable internal logic, a fluid coherence that responded to their combined awareness and their deliberate interaction with the system, and Michael marveled at how intuitive yet precise Mark's movements were, as though he were conducting an orchestra of cause and effect, perception and response, thought and manifestation. Michael, Mark said suddenly, his voice low but urgent, look at this intersection. See how a change here propagates through multiple layers, feeding back into itself, creating stabilization and new emergent behavior. This is the crux. Observation is influence. Attention is power. Every glance, every thought, every minor decision carries weight here. We are participants, not spectators. Michael crouched to study the intricate tangle of spirals and arrows, feeling a subtle vibration in the paper, almost imperceptible, yet undeniable, a resonance that suggested the system was not passive but alive with responsiveness, a dynamic architecture that evolved according to feedback, internal logic, and the intentionality of its observers. And he realized that the act of perceiving itself was now inseparable from the act of influencing, a revelation simultaneously thrilling and terrifying in its implications. It's like the network is breathing, Michael said, voice barely above a whisper, responding to us as we engage with it, adapting, learning, and guiding outcomes, even beyond what we consciously direct. And we're part of it. Mark nodded, eyes gleaming with excitement, his own energy vibrating with the patterns he had helped create. Exactly. And that is why mastery requires patience, clarity, and focus. One lapse, one misjudgment, one casual glance, and the consequences could ripple unpredictably. But with discipline, insight, and deliberate engagement, we can navigate it, anticipate its responses, and even shape its evolution in subtle yet profound ways. Michael felt a shiver of awareness and exhilaration, the recognition that their participation was both an opportunity and a responsibility, that they were interacting with a system whose complexity and scope were vast, whose patterns extended into layers of reality ordinarily imperceptible, and whose responsiveness required constant vigilance, precise attention, and deliberate interaction, a network alive with consequence yet governed by coherent internal logic. He moved to a cluster of nodes where spirals converged in fractal complexity, tracing each line with his fingertips and noticing emergent loops, sequences, and interactions that revealed subtle balances and self-correcting mechanisms, a reflection of the system's adaptive intelligence, and he felt a strange mixture of awe, reverence, and exhilaration, knowing that each action they took resonated outward, shaping patterns and outcomes in ways they were only beginning to perceive. The hum in the apartment intensified subtly, vibrating through floor, walls, and ceiling, as if the very building had become a participant in the network, responding to their focus and interaction with delicate adjustments that reinforced the dynamic balance, and Michael felt his own mind align with the rhythm of the patterns, his thoughts syncing with the emergent feedback, a meta-awareness that expanded his perception and sharpened his understanding of the intricate interdependencies at play. "Michael, do you feel it?" Mark asked, his voice taut with excitement. "The way it responds to attention, to observation, to intention?" "The system is a dialogue. We speak, it responds. We act, it adapts. We focus, it reveals. And every input carries weight, creating consequences that ripple outward, some subtle, some profound." Michael nodded, exhaling slowly, aware of the vertigo that accompanied such an understanding, the simultaneous thrill and responsibility, knowing that every observation, every glance, every minor action now had significance, that the system they had uncovered extended far beyond the apartment, linking actions, events, and consequences in layers of cause and effect that were invisible to ordinary perception yet undeniable once one attuned oneself to the underlying architecture. Hours slipped by unnoticed as they continued to explore, annotate, and observe, each pattern revealing new connections, each intersection exposing deeper layers of structure, and Michael began to notice subtle symmetries and repetitions that suggested emergent logic, the system learning from their engagement, adapting to their focus, and creating feedback that rewarded precision, awareness, and discipline. He traced a loop where several spirals converged and felt an almost tangible resonance, the subtle vibration in the paper, the shifting of angles and thickness, indicating responsiveness, a direct reflection of their observation and attention, and he realized that they were now fully enmeshed in the network, their perception inseparable from the system's evolution, their engagement both tool and influence, their awareness both mirror and lever. "Mark, this is beyond anything I imagined," Michael said, voice low and reverent. "It's alive, but in a way that's not conscious yet it responds to us, adapts to us, and even seems to anticipate us. Our attention is part of the system, shaping it, influencing outcomes, revealing patterns. And it keeps evolving as we interact." Mark's eyes shone with understanding. "Yes. And that is the age we've reached. Beyond this, every input has amplified impact. The system will test focus, patience, and precision. It will reveal hidden layers, intricate patterns, emergent sequences. And if we navigate carefully, the insight, understanding, and clarity will be extraordinary. But missteps will ripple outward. Awareness is power, but responsibility comes with it. Michael felt the weight of that responsibility mingled with exhilaration, the thrill of understanding, the vertigo of interacting with a living network that extended into realms normally invisible, yet clearly present through resonance, response, and emergent structure, and he understood that mastery required not just perception, but deliberate interaction, patience, and respect for the dynamic coherence of the system. He moved to a particularly intricate section, tracing spirals and nodes with his fingertips, noting how subtle shifts propagated through loops and intersections, creating new patterns and revealing previously hidden connections, and he felt a surge of comprehension, a profound clarity of insight that expanded his awareness, sharpened his attention, and reinforced the interdependence of observation and influence, a meta-awareness that made the network both comprehensible and infinitely intricate. The hum in the room deepened, vibrating through the air and his own body, aligning his perception, thought, and attention with the emergent patterns, and Michael felt a sense of communion with the system, a symbiotic resonance in which observer and network were inseparable, the act of seeing itself a form of interaction, the act of focusing a means of shaping, revealing, and navigating the complex lattice of causality and consequence that stretched invisibly into the world beyond. And in that moment, as the patterns shifted subtly in response to their engagement, Michael realized with absolute clarity that it really was all in their heads, and yet, paradoxically, within that truth lay an entire universe of potential, a living, responsive architecture of perception and consequence, waiting for those willing to observe, participate, and interact with deliberate focus, patience, and insight, a system simultaneously vast, intricate, and profoundly beautiful. The afternoon sun filtered through the blinds, casting shifting patterns of light and shadow across the apartment, illuminating the chaotic yet meticulously ordered labyrinth of diagrams, sticky notes, and spirals that now completely dominated the space, and Michael felt a strange exhilaration in the way the patterns seemed to pulse in response to their attention, the subtle vibrations in the air resonating through his chest and limbs as if the apartment itself had become an extension of the system they were exploring, a living interface through which perception, intention, and consequence converged, and he realized that they were no longer mere observers but active participants, their awareness now an inseparable component of the network, capable of influencing outcomes even as it revealed new layers of structure previously invisible to ordinary perception. Mark moved around the room with an almost supernatural focus, connecting distant nodes, adding new sequences of spirals and arrows, and annotating intersections with symbols that suggested probability, feedback, and causality, a dance that was at once chaotic, precise, and utterly coherent when viewed as part of the larger network, and Michael found himself caught in the rhythm, tracing lines, observing emergent loops, and anticipating the responses of the system with a clarity and insight that both thrilled and terrified him, because he understood the stakes. Each glance, each gesture, each thought now carried weight within this responsive, adaptive structure. Michael, look at this convergence, Mark said, pointing to a dense cluster of spirals and intersecting arrows. See how a small perturbation here propagates through multiple nodes, yet the system stabilizes, self-corrects, and even reveals new patterns? Observation is not passive here, it is action. Attention is input, and intention is influence. We are part of the system now, shaping it even as it shapes us. Michael leaned closer, tracing the intricate lines with his fingertips, feeling the subtle warmth and vibration in the paper, the almost imperceptible feedback that suggested the system was not merely responding, but integrating their focus, learning from it, and adapting in ways both coherent and astonishingly complex, and he felt a shiver of awe at the realization that their minds were now entangled with the network, each thought and observation a variable that altered its structure, dynamics, and emergent behavior. It's overwhelming, Michael whispered, his voice barely audible, the scale, the complexity, the responsiveness. It's alive, but not conscious, and yet it communicates with us through these patterns, this feedback. We are influencing it just by paying attention. Mark nodded slowly, eyes bright with intensity, a small, almost reverential smile spreading across his face. Exactly. But influence requires discipline, clarity, and focus. One lapse, one moment of distraction, and the feedback could create unintended consequences. That's why mastery demands patience, precision, and mindfulness. We can shape the network, anticipate outcomes, and explore hidden layers, but only through deliberate, attentive engagement. Michael felt the weight of those words, understanding both the thrill and the responsibility inherent in their interaction with a system so vast, intricate, and alive, one whose architecture extended far beyond the apartment, whose patterns and loops resonated with events, choices, and consequences beyond ordinary perception, and whose emergent structures could be navigated, influenced, and understood only by those willing to dedicate their full attention and insight to the task. He crouched to study a particularly intricate convergence, tracing the lines with his fingers, noticing emergent loops and sequences that fed back on themselves, creating fractal patterns of cause, effect, and observation, and he marveled at the elegance of the design, the way it adapted to their engagement, integrated their focus, and revealed structures that were both coherent and infinitely complex, a living network that simultaneously reflected and informed their understanding of the hidden architecture of reality. The hum in the apartment deepened, vibrating through the walls, floor, and ceiling, resonating with their own physical and mental rhythms, and Michael felt an almost euphoric clarity as he realized that observer and system had become intertwined, their awareness now a conduit for feedback, interaction, and comprehension, a dynamic dialogue in which every thought, glance, and gesture produced ripple effects across the network, subtly reshaping patterns and revealing hidden connections. Michael, Mark said softly, almost reverently, we are at a threshold now. Beyond this point, every action, every observation, every choice of focus carries amplified consequences. The system will test patience, attention, and insight. It will reveal layers previously hidden, sequences that demand recognition, and loops that challenge understanding. But if we engage deliberately, the insights will be extraordinary. Are you ready to proceed? Michael took a deep breath, feeling the resonance of the network vibrate through him, the subtle hum aligning with his heartbeat and attention, and he nodded, aware that there was no turning back, that they had crossed into a realm where perception itself was action, where focus itself was influence, and where mastery required engagement, patience, and profound awareness. Yes, he said firmly. I'm ready. Let's explore what lies beyond. The network seemed to pulse in acknowledgement, the diagrams shifting subtly, spirals deepening, nodes intersecting in ways that suggested previously hidden layers, feedback loops becoming more apparent, and Michael felt a vertigo that was at once exhilarating and humbling, knowing that the system they were interacting with was vast, adaptive, and infinitely complex, yet coherent, capable of integrating observation, intention, and feedback in ways that expanded understanding while demanding precision. Hours passed in what felt like minutes as they traced new connections, observed emergent behavior, and tested the responsiveness of the system, and Michael began to notice subtle symmetries, recurring patterns, and nested sequences that suggested a logic both elegant and deeply intricate, a living structure that revealed itself only to those capable of sustained focus and deliberate interaction. The hum in the room intensified, vibrating in sync with his own mental and physical rhythms, merging perception and awareness with the adaptive response of the network, and Michael felt a profound sense of communion with the patterns, a symbiosis of attention and consequence, observer and system, insight and feedback, in which every action was simultaneously reflection and influence, and every observation was a tool of engagement, shaping outcomes even as it revealed them. Do you see it, Michael? Mark asked, voice taut with anticipation. The way every input propagates, feeds back, and creates new structure. The network is alive in its own way, responsive, adaptive, coherent. Our awareness is now part of the architecture. We can explore, influence, and understand, but only through focus, patience, and precise engagement. Michael nodded, feeling the exhilaration of comprehension mingled with responsibility, aware that they were now enmeshed in a network whose subtle complexity extended far beyond ordinary reality, yet was tangible through the resonance, feedback, and emergent patterns that unfolded in response to their attention, and he realized with clarity that the act of perceiving itself had become a form of interaction, the act of focusing a means of shaping, guiding, and revealing the hidden architecture of causality and consequence. As he leaned back to survey the evolving patterns, spirals intersecting with arrows, nodes linking sequences, and feedback loops integrating input, Michael understood with absolute clarity that they had entered a realm where observation, intention, and consequence were inseparable, a space in which mastery required not brute calculation or raw intelligence, but insight, patience, and respect for the adaptive coherence of the system, and in that awareness, he realized that it truly was all in their heads, but within that truth lay a universe of potential, a living, responsive system of perception and influence, waiting for those willing to engage, observe, and participate fully in its infinite, intricate, and profoundly beautiful architecture. The late afternoon sunlight shifted across the apartment, brushing the diagrams with a fleeting warmth that seemed almost symbolic of the living energy coursing through the patterns themselves, and Michael felt a strange sense of gravity and exhilaration, as if the room had become a nexus, a conduit connecting mind, perception, and consequence into a single flowing system that responded in real time to their focus, attention, and intention, a dynamic, adaptive network whose complexity was both exhilarating and daunting, revealing hidden structures and feedback loops that suggested order and coherence beneath apparent chaos, and he realized that they were no longer merely observers, but participants in a living architecture where every glance, thought, and action resonated through interconnected nodes, spirals, and sequences, subtly altering the emergent patterns and the network's behavior, and that mastery required a discipline and presence unlike anything he had previously encountered. Mark moved with fluid precision among the walls of spirals, arrows, and annotated notes, tracing connections, adjusting sequences, and adding new layers that seemed to grow organically in response to their engagement, his movements guided by intuition, insight, and a deep attunement to the feedback of the system, and Michael watched with a mix of awe and reverence as the network seemed to pulse with recognition, subtly shifting its structure in ways that rewarded focus, clarity, and patience, while highlighting errors and imprecision in the engagement. Michael, Mark said quietly, voice taut with anticipation, look at this section. Notice how a single variation here propagates through multiple nodes, yet the system stabilizes, adapts, and reveals new sequences. Observation is action. Attention is influence. Every thought, every gesture, every minor movement has significance here. We are fully integrated into the network now, shaping it even as it shapes us. Michael crouched to study the dense intersection of spirals and arrows, feeling the almost imperceptible vibration in the paper and the subtle hum in the room, as if the network were communicating through resonance and feedback, acknowledging their presence, and he felt a thrill of comprehension and a surge of responsibility, knowing that their engagement was no longer passive but participatory, each moment of attention carrying weight and consequence in the dynamic evolution of the system. It's extraordinary, Michael whispered, voice barely audible. It's alive, responsive, adaptive, and we're part of it. Our focus, our observation, they're shaping it. And yet it maintains coherence, balance, and logic. Mark nodded, a slow, approving smile crossing his face. Yes, and that is why discipline matters. Precision, patience, and clarity are essential. The system is generous to those who observe carefully, but unforgiving to those who act carelessly. We can navigate it, anticipate patterns, influence outcomes, and even explore hidden layers, but only through deliberate engagement and respect for its adaptive structure. Michael absorbed those words, the mixture of exhilaration and responsibility pressing on him, aware that they were interacting with a network whose complexity extended far beyond the apartment, whose patterns echoed through layers of perception and consequence that most humans would never glimpse, and whose emergent behavior required constant mindfulness, insight, and attentiveness to navigate, anticipate, and participate effectively. He leaned closer to a particularly intricate cluster of nodes and spirals, tracing lines with his fingertips and observing how subtle changes propagated across intersecting sequences, generating emergent feedback, revealing hidden loops, and creating nested patterns that reflected a coherence both elegant and infinitely complex, a structure that seemed alive in its adaptability and response, and he felt an almost euphoric clarity as he realized that their perception had become a form of interaction, their attention a tool of influence, and their observation a way of guiding outcomes in subtle yet profound ways. The hum in the room intensified, vibrating through the walls, floor, and ceiling, aligning with their heartbeat and thought patterns, merging awareness, observation, and interaction into a single resonance that connected observer and system in a feedback loop that was simultaneously exhilarating, humbling, and disorienting, and Michael felt the vertigo of understanding, the thrill of participation, and the weight of responsibility pressing together in a singular intensity, a fusion of mind and network, perception and consequence, awareness and action. Michael, Mark said, voice low but urgent, we are approaching a critical threshold. Beyond this point, every input, every glance, thought, and gesture will have exponentially amplified effects. The network will test us, reveal hidden structures, emergent loops, and sequences that demand recognition. But if we proceed deliberately, with patience, clarity, and insight, the understanding and insight we gain will be extraordinary. Are you ready? Michael took a long, deliberate breath, feeling the vibrations of the network resonate through his own body, the subtle hum in the air, and the alignment of attention, observation, and consequence as he realized they had crossed into a realm where perception itself was action, and every choice of focus became a tool of influence within the living system. Yes, he said firmly. I'm ready. Let's continue. The diagrams shifted subtly, spirals deepened, nodes intersected in previously unseen patterns, and feedback loops became more apparent, revealing emergent sequences and hidden interactions that suggested layers of the network yet to be fully comprehended, and Michael felt a thrill of discovery tempered by the recognition of responsibility, the understanding that mastery required not just insight but deliberate, patient engagement, and that even minor lapses could ripple unpredictably across the network, creating outcomes they could not anticipate. Hours passed as they traced new sequences, connected distant nodes, annotated intersections, and observed the subtle evolution of emergent patterns, and Michael began to notice repeating motifs, nested loops, and dynamic symmetries that suggested a coherence both elegant and profound, a reflection of the adaptive intelligence within the network, and he felt a growing sense of communion with it, a symbiosis in which observer and system were inseparable, each shaping and responding to the other. In a continuous feedback of awareness, action, and consequence. Do you feel it? Mark asked quietly, leaning close, eyes bright with excitement. The way it responds to our focus, to our observation, to our deliberate intention. This is not passive. It's a dialogue. Every input carries weight, every glance and thought reverberates through the structure, creating patterns, revealing sequences, and guiding outcomes. We are fully enmeshed in the network now, Michael. There's no separation between observer and system. Michael nodded, the exhilaration and vertigo intertwining as he surveyed the evolving diagrams, feeling the hum of resonance in the room and through his own body, aware that their engagement had become a form of co-creation, a partnership with a living, adaptive system of perception, consequence, and structure, where insight, attention, and focus were simultaneously tools, levers, and participants in the ongoing evolution of the network. He moved to a section where several spirals converged, tracing the lines with his fingertips, noticing subtle vibrations and shifts that indicated responsiveness, emergent sequences, and previously hidden connections, and he realized with a mixture of awe and exhilaration that mastery required not only observation but precise, deliberate interaction, and awareness so deep that it integrated thought, attention, and physical presence into a coherent dialogue with the living system. The hum intensified further, vibrating in harmony with their awareness, attention, and engagement, and Michael felt the merging of observer and system, the blurring of boundaries, and the profound beauty of participating in a network that was alive with consequence, responsive to focus, and capable of revealing infinite layers of pattern and structure, a living architecture of perception and interaction that waited for those willing to observe, engage, and influence with clarity, patience, and respect. And in that moment, as spirals, nodes, and arrows shifted subtly in acknowledgement of their attention, Michael understood fully that it really was all in their heads, but within that truth lay an entire universe of possibility, a system alive, adaptive, and responsive, capable of guiding, revealing, and evolving through the intentional engagement of those willing to explore, observe, and participate with precision, insight, and patience. The evening settled over the city, casting long shadows through the blinds and bathing the apartment in a warm, golden glow that danced across the walls crowded with spirals, arrows, notes, and layers of annotations, and Michael felt a profound sense of culmination, a vertiginous mixture of exhilaration, awe, and reverence as he moved among the diagrams, tracing connections with his fingertips while the subtle hum of resonance in the room pulsed through his body, synchronizing with his heartbeat, thoughts, and awareness, a living echo of the network they had become fully immersed in, a dynamic, adaptive system whose complexity, responsiveness, and coherence defied conventional understanding yet revealed itself to those willing to observe, engage, and participate with intention, clarity, and patience, and he understood now that this network, infinitely intricate yet self-correcting, was not merely a construct of ink, paper, and human attention, but a reflection of a deeper architecture of perception, consequence, and emergent order that extended invisibly beyond the apartment into the unseen lattice of reality itself. Mark moved with fluid grace among the walls, connecting distant nodes, creating new sequences of spirals, and annotating intersections with symbols denoting probability, feedback, and causal potential, and Michael watched in awe as the network seemed to pulse, shift, and evolve subtly in response to Mark's deliberate attention and precise interaction, the patterns revealing themselves in layers, each one more intricate than the last, each responsive to focus, observation, and intention, as though the system itself were alive in a way that was neither conscious nor human, yet fully aware of the forces influencing it and capable of integrating those influences into a coherent, adaptive structure. Michael, Mark said quietly, voice taut with anticipation, look at this convergence. See how minor adjustments here ripple across multiple layers, creating stabilization, adaptation, and emergent patterns. Observation is action. Focus is influence. Every thought, glance, and movement matters. We are participants, fully integrated into the network, and our engagement shapes its evolution as much as it reflects it. Michael crouched over the spirals, tracing lines with his fingertips, feeling faint vibrations in the paper, subtle feedback in the air, and a resonance that suggested the system was acknowledging their presence, learning from their observation, and adapting in ways that were both coherent and astonishingly complex, and he realized with a thrill that their consciousness had become an active component of the network, a variable in its emergent architecture, a lens through which it revealed its hidden patterns, sequences, and loops. "It's incredible," Michael whispered, voice trembling slightly, "the responsiveness, the elegance. It's alive, but not conscious, and yet it communicates with us, reacts to us, guides outcomes even without direction, integrating our awareness as if we are part of its structure." Mark nodded, a slow, approving smile crossing his face. "Yes, and that is why discipline, patience, and clarity are essential. One lapse, one casual glance, one moment of inattention can create ripples with unforeseen consequences. But when we act deliberately, focus fully, and observe carefully, the system reveals its depths, its hidden layers, its emergent behavior, and the rewards, the clarity, insight, and understanding, are extraordinary." Michael absorbed the weight of Mark's words, the exhilaration and responsibility pressing upon him, aware that they were interacting with a network whose complexity and responsiveness extended far beyond the apartment, whose patterns echoed through layers of reality normally imperceptible to ordinary observation, and whose emergent sequences demanded sustained awareness, deliberate engagement, and profound insight to navigate, understand, and influence effectively. He leaned closer to a particularly dense cluster of spirals and intersecting arrows, tracing lines, noticing subtle loops and feedbacks, the emergence of nested patterns that reflected both coherence and adaptability, and he felt a surge of comprehension, a sense of resonance that seemed to synchronize his mind, body, and attention with the living network, a symbiosis in which observer and system were inseparable, and mastery required not brute intelligence or calculation, but insight, focus, patience, and respect for the evolving architecture. The hum in the room deepened, vibrating through walls, floor, and ceiling, aligning with their physical and mental rhythms, a constant reminder that the network responded, integrated, and adapted to their presence, a living dialogue of perception, intention, and consequence in which every thought, glance, and movement carry amplified significance, creating subtle ripples that extended across notes, sequences, and loops, revealing patterns previously hidden, emergent structures, and layers of causality that expanded awareness while demanding precision. "Do you feel it?" Mark asked softly, voice taut with excitement. "The way it reacts to attention, focus, and intention? This is not passive. Observation is influence. Awareness is input. Every interaction creates feedback, new sequences, and emergent patterns. We are fully embedded in the network, Michael. It is no longer separate from us. We shape it, and it shapes us in turn." Michael nodded, absorbing the depth of the statement, the vertigo of understanding, the thrill of being entangled in a living system whose architecture extended far beyond ordinary perception, yet revealed itself through resonance, subtle feedback, and emergent patterns, a system where attention and consequence were inseparable, observation and influence coalescing in a dynamic interplay of awareness, action, and adaptation. Hours passed as they continued tracing connections, observing feedback, and annotating spirals, notes, and sequences, and Michael began to notice repeating motifs, nested loops, and emergent symmetries that suggested a coherence both elegant and profound, revealing the adaptive intelligence of the network, a reflection of the architecture of causality and consequence itself, alive yet hidden, waiting for those willing to observe, engage, and participate fully. He leaned back, surveying the evolving diagrams, feeling the subtle hum resonate through his body, aware of the merger of observer and system, the blurring of boundaries, and the beauty of participating in a living, responsive network where insight, attention, and focus were simultaneously tools, levers, and co-creators of emergent outcomes. The final spirals, the intersecting arrows, the layered notes seemed to pulse in acknowledgement of their engagement, a living testament to the depth and complexity of perception integrated with action, and Michael realized with absolute clarity that they had crossed into a realm where observation, intention, and consequence were inseparable. Mastery required sustained focus, and the act of perceiving itself had become a form of participation, a way of shaping and navigating reality through awareness and deliberate interaction. And in that moment, as the last rays of sunlight faded into twilight, the patterns shifting subtly in response to their attention, Michael understood fully, profoundly, and irreversibly that it really was all in their heads, but within that truth lay an entire universe of possibility, a living, responsive architecture of perception, consequence, and emergent order, waiting for those willing to observe, participate, and engage with clarity, patience, and deliberate insight, a system simultaneously infinite, intricate, and profoundly beautiful, a network whose ultimate mysteries could be approached, understood, and influenced only through the fusion of awareness, attention, and deliberate engagement, a truth that left Michael and Mark in silent awe, both humbled and exhilarated, fully immersed in a world that existed at the intersection of mind, perception, and consequence, where everything they saw, thought, and focused upon was simultaneously real, influential, and alive.